Hello everyone and welcome to round 4 of the 2025 GPVWC Superleague Championship. Today we are at the Jeddah Corniche circuit, not Cornish circuit, that is on the peninsula at the bottom of the UK. Jeddah Corniche circuit in Saudi Arabia, and I believe it's only the second Saudi Grand Prix that we've done in GPVWC Superleague, so not a particularly well-known track. Drivers still having to get used to it, and my goodness, it's tricky with its blind corners and its high curbs. My name is Caitlin Penny. I will be taking you through all of the action today. The broadcast director is Remco de Zeeuw, and joining me in the commentary box will be, as usual, Ed Hunter. Now, Ed, I said last week that I wouldn't be here today, or at least I said in the last race that I wouldn't be here today. Clearly, I was lying, but you can blame my work for that, for rescheduling my training. But it's always delightful to be in the commentary box with you. How are you feeling about today, and what should we be looking out for here at this very difficult circuit?
Well, I'm sure Amir Oates will be chomping at the bit to make his Super League commentary debut, but he'll have to wait a few races longer, I'm sure, for me to miss one, probably. But it'll probably be me missing before you do, Caitlin. But yeah, in terms of this race, obviously, the last time out, Loic Mounier got his first victory, didn't he? In the Japanese Grand Prix at Suzuka. Really thrilling race. We did have the commentary drop out on us at one point, but we did get it back, so it made the editing the highlights kind of interesting, and having to voice over them and pretend it was live. But in terms of the actual race, yeah, it was a great battle between Mounier and Grankvist. In the end, Grankvist just leaving the door that a little bit open as Mounier used the DRS and pushed the bus at exactly the right time with like 2 laps to go, wasn't it? Going into the first corner, Grankvist went wide, just about held on to second, but obviously he's got a little bit of a penalty hanging over him into this quali session, along with a very, very worn engine from all the defending he was doing last time out. So yeah, Jan Grankvist, winner. He won his first race here last year. This year, he's up against it, really, and it is the likes of Mounier, Leho, Maggio, etc. that are all looking to take advantage.
Indeed, we'll talk about that penalty in a little bit. We're off to a great start in this broadcast. I already have to correct myself because this is actually the third Saudi Grand Prix that we've done in GPVWC Super League.
Denahan won the first.
The first in 2023 was won by Jake Denahan. The second one last year was won by Jan Grankvist, and we got some news on him in a little bit as well. So the qualifying is set to start in about 20 seconds. We will have a 15-minute session. You can see drivers heading to the end of the pit lane to prepare for their qualifying runs. Let's run you through a couple of the headlines. These cars.
There are a lot of headlights here too, because it's a night race. But yeah.
So first of all, we will see the return today of a champion. David Feidock is back. He will be racing for Epic today, replacing Dan Brewer. We've been told that Dan Brewer has broken his wrist, and we don't know exactly how. David Feidock in the YouTube chat, in the Discord chat, says he was doing the dirty stuff. I don't think that is actually how he broke his wrist, but I guess we will have more information.
He means,
of
of course,
that in
the
due
dishes,
time.
right? The dirty dishes.
Yes, he means the
leaning
dishes.
over in the washing machine, and he broke his wrist because he was trying to reach for the top shelf. I don't know. But that's how I choose to interpret that.
Well, whatever the case is, get well soon, Dan. That is very unfortunate news. But David Feidock has been chomping at the bit to try to get back on the Super League scene ever since the start of the season. Of course, he had to stop doing Super League just over a year ago because he had to look after his kids while his wife was at work on Thursdays, and that's why he moved back down to Super Lights. But that's changed as of this season. The trouble is it didn't change soon enough, and by the time he realized he could do Super League, he missed the boat. Pretty much every other team had signed their full driver lineups, and he was relegated to being a super sub. But David is out on track today, and I'm sure that he will put in a great performance. There he is in the Epic Racing Team car, the one that was going to be driven by Dan Brewer today. We've had a couple of penalties since the last round, including, quite notably, championship leader Jan Grankvist, who will have a 10-place grid drop for cutting the track during qualifying. Usually, the track limits in qualifying are based entirely upon what the game deems to be acceptable, and if you don't get an automatic ping inside the game, you won't normally get a penalty for cutting the track. But at Japan, they couldn't quite get the track limits to work properly in the game, and Jan was manually reviewed. His lap was manually reviewed, as was that of other drivers, and he was judged to have cut the track in the Casio triangle, thus giving him a 10-place grid drop. I was saying before the start of the stream though, he got lucky because back when I started GPWC, every qualifying lap was manually reviewed, and if you were judged to have cut the track and not given up your time, you actually got a back of the grid penalty, so you had to start the next race from the very back of the grid. And I think he's pretty lucky that we're past those days, but anyway. You may notice Jan isn't actually here just yet. We are still expecting him to be racing today. He did say in the Discord chat earlier that he would have to miss most of qualifying, and of course he has that penalty anyway. So it's very much damage limitation today for our championship leader. We know that he's using quite a used engine for today's action as well. And so Jan Grangfist, well, he's very good here, won here a year ago of course. We're not expecting him to repeat that feat today. And instead we're just waiting to see what he actually does and when he shows up in the first place. But anyway, the other penalty is quite a considerable one for Jarl Tyen of the THR squad. Jarl Tyen was given a 30-place grid penalty after the first lap collision with Tom Stevens in the last race. Now I've read through the DC notes, the disciplinary committee notes, and there's nothing, and he's crashed. Okay, well, Jarl Tyen has had a crash on track, and if he doesn't make it back to the pits, then that will be the end of his qualifying session. Now, luckily for him, this won't really affect him, since he was going to have to start at the back of the grid anyway, with that 30-place grid drop, but even so, he's trying to make it back to the pits on 3 wheels. You usually can't do that if you're missing a rear wheel. Usually it's only the front wheels that actually allow you to drive the car, but Jarl Tyen, with sparks flying out the back, is crawling it back to the pits. Anyway, what I was going to say, as he uses it again, is that 30 places is a very harsh penalty, and I was very much expecting to see in the DC notes a note about why the penalty was so harsh, and I see nothing of the sort. So for some reason that we're not privy to, Jarl Tyen has been given a much heavier penalty than is usually dished out for unintentional contact, and I guess we will have to wait for further news on that penalty. Obviously, some people feeling a little bit aggrieved about that, but he was judged to have caused that incident. I wonder whether it's maybe because it was on the first lap of the race, and the DC wants to instill extra caution in people on the opening laps of races. But anyway, that's all speculation for the time being.
We do have a bit of update on that actually, Caitlin, because Oliver Taris has pointed this out in the YouTube chat. Jarl's penalty is actually postponed apparently due to him appealing it.
Right.
So definitely, yeah, you are not the only one that is pointing out that it's a very, very severe penalty. But yeah, for Jarl Tyen, he's just had another crash, as you say. So it seems to be a bit of a theme for Jarl. Crashed in Melbourne, crashed twice at Suzuka as well, and now he's crashed in qualifying here. So yeah, poor Jarl Tyen does not seem to be able to keep all the wheels on that car at the moment.
However, he did make it back to the pits, so he will be able to go back out on track for another run. But yeah, his penalty is suspended for a race due to that appeal, which is fair enough. And I guess we will see in due time what comes of that. And that, of course, explains why he was crawling it back to the pits in the first place. Of course, if he was due to start at the back of the grid anyway, then there wouldn't really be much of a point setting a qualifying lap, but he's gone back to the pits so that he can. I'm just trying to work out, Ed, because obviously we don't have Jan Grangfist yet, and he said earlier that he might have to miss this race. I'm trying to work out who the other driver who is not yet on the server actually is, as Tom Stevens goes third, and that's a big crash for Dylan Fisher, and that's a big shame. We were just saying before this broadcast started that Fisher was doing very well. Yeah, he was doing very well in practice. He was right up he was in the top 5 towards the end of that practice session, and we were expecting him to be a standout in qualifying. But as you can see, he has not yet set a qualifying lap, and now he will not get a chance because that is a very destroyed race car. So no lap time today, I'm afraid, for Dylan Fisher, and that means, Ed, that he will be starting near the back of the grid.
And I have a feeling him and Jarl Tyen are just the first of the high-speed crashes and retirements we're going to see out of this event. Definitely not the last then, as we see Alessandro Maggio putting the valet through its paces. Currently he's on provisional pole from a tenth of a second over Matthew Williams then. And of course, he got his first points last time out, didn't he, with that 8th place at Suzuka as well. So after having a lot of bad luck in the first 2 races, Maggio, with a lot of prodigal pace and speed that he's shown so far, is very, very keen to turn things around. So we talked a lot about things going wrong for people in this session. Maggio is someone who is in the process of making it go very, very much his way at the moment as he swings through out of that middle sector and into the final part of the lap. Then it's looking like he's he's marginally up on that current pole time. So yeah, Matthew Williams will have to go some if he wants to snatch pole. And we can't forget about Tom Stevens, another driver looking to recover from a patchy run of form in the past 2 races.
Indeed. So Alessandro Maggio is improving yet again. Let's take a look at this time as he crosses the line, and Valle goes. Well, they're 1 and 2 now, and it's a 1:26.626 there from Alessandro Maggio, moving further away from the head of the field. Great lap there for Matthew Williams, puts him 3rd. Carlos Martin back into the pits, but once again, Valle are 1 and 2. What a fantastic lap time set by both Alessandro Maggio and Sergio Fletcher at the top there. Here's Shimon Frelich. I think he's probably going to come into the pits now as well and set up for another qualifying time, and he does exactly that. Update from Toby Davis. First of all, confirming that they are appealing Jarl Tyne's penalty. Also, Jan Grankvist is doing the R&D test right now, which is why he is late to the session. Obviously, the Super Venturi standard reserve driver, who would be Noah Tuamela, was not able to make it today. So that means that Jan has been forced to do the R&D test in his wake. And I'm trying to see who the other driver that's missing actually is, because we've got 28 cars out there instead of the usual 30. I wonder if it's not Green Stripes. They got both
Stacks.
cars.
It's the second Stacks of Istvan Singal who's not there.
Okay, yeah, you're absolutely right. So Zolt Shukes is out there, but Istvang Singal not yet. I thought I saw him earlier, but I might have been imagining that. Anyway, Jarl Tyne has made it back out onto the track. What a heroic effort to make it back to the pits. You very rarely see that for drivers who lose their rear wheels. And Jarl will still get an opportunity to set a qualifying lap. I guess that's the beauty of sim racing as opposed to real life racing, where he would absolutely have been out on the spot. And even if he could, by some miracle, make it back to the pits, there's no way that he would be going out in the session once again. But Jarl Tyne is back out there, he's pushing, and he's going on to make another lap. By the way, another quick update out of that camp. We know that THR is very closely linked with the FTR squad, the Fraser Tartan Racing squad. They're doing very, very well in the session, 9th and 10th, and Moritz Kropp is in 9th position now. Normally, it would be Matt Richards in that car, so Moritz Kropp, a substitute driver, running in 9th position as it stands, ahead of regular FTR driver Sven Schubert. Ed.
Yeah, indeed. So yeah, Moritz, of course, who did drive for that team last season, had a couple of good drives. His internet connection was a little bit flaky, let him down on a couple of occasions, and occasionally Moritz made like 1 or 2 minor mistakes as well. So it's good to see him back in the car, of course, although we do hope to see Matt Richards back at some point as well after a lot of bad luck in his first couple of races. But yeah, Jarl Tyne, heavy contact with the wall out of turn 27 there. He's really trying to push. I wonder if they fully repaired that THR in time as he goes 8th fastest, but he's definitely threatening to bend the steering again as we cut back to Kropp, now push back to 10th due to that lap we just saw from Norway's Jarl Tyne there as well. Another driver that's a little bit under pressure, I think, at the moment. We see Istvan Singal and Jan Grankvist join the Serb with just under 4 minutes left to go. So I think Singal was also at the R&D test. He must have been for Stacks then. So that's 2 drivers otherwise delayed. One leading the championship, the other one yet to score a point, of course, for Stacks, although I wouldn't put it past Singal to turn his fortunes around at some point. Alex Lahoe, by the way, has finally got a lap on the board, but he's down in 18th position. He's the man. Remember, pre-season he said, Jeddah is the one I'm really excited about. That's a track that suits me so well. And at the moment, it's not quite coming together. So Lahoe putting himself under a lot of pressure after a tough result in Suzuka as well, where he qualified well, but dropped down the field on the hard tyre, didn't he? So as we see Lalu holding on to what would be the final points paying position come the race finish in 15th. He's also trying to keep Super Venturi in the game here, right? But that's our team's championship leaders that are not looking good in this quali session so far.
Yeah, it's very interesting about Lahu because you're absolutely right. He did say that his best chance would be at Jeddah, and yet earlier on he came into the YouTube chat and said no pace. So I guess we'll have to wait and see what ends up happening with Alex Lahu, if that is the case, and he turned up here and just found that he had less pace than expecting. I know how that feels, and I'm sure that would be very frustrating indeed. Jukka-Pekka Laulu, only 12th in this session. No real concern. Of course, Jukka is very much the second driver at Super Venturi and doesn't tend to qualify well, but does race a little bit better. He's very consistent, and as a result of that, Super Venturi are leading the team's championship still. We'll run you through the teams and drivers' championship standings later on. Matthew Williams back into the pits, and he just about has time to go out for one last flying lap. Of course, the end of the session is when the lap times tend to be set, because the track is at its most rubbered in, the drivers are at their most fired up, and it very much, I mean, it helps you mentally seeing that timer ticking down. You think it's now or never, and you go for broke, and sometimes it leads to crashes and things. I'm afraid myself personally, I don't respond well to that pressure, and I do have quite a few incidents towards the end of sessions like this, but these drivers are significantly better and more headstrong than me, and they tend to respond to that pressure well towards the end of the session. And of course the track is at its best around now as well. Geoffrey Fournier here, very close to the barriers, and that curb on the left hand side there is a tricky one. The car tends to get very twitchy if you take too much of that curb. David Feidock unfortunately took a big trip into the wall in the Super Lights race the other day. Geoffrey Fournier's teammate for today, of course, David Feidock, who says he has not done enough practice for this Super League race because he found out he was doing it quite late, but he does of course have the advantage of having done the Super Lights race just the other day. Geoffrey Fournier a long way down on this lap. I'm afraid this won't be a competitive one, and I don't know, I think actually, yeah, judging by the time that he's setting, he will probably get around in time to set another lap if he has the fuel and tyres for it, which explains why he's still pushing on, despite this clearly not being a push lap.
Yeah, he's in the end of the final sector now, isn't he? Just a couple of corners to go through 26 and 27. So he can sort of afford to take his time here. Just make sure he doesn't destroy his tyres, because Jeddah, it may end up being a one-stop race, but on the softs especially, they can get away from you quite quickly if you abuse them at high speed through some of these corners. A couple of drivers, both of the THRs, on personal bests through the first sector. 31.9 for Stevens, 31.8 for Tyen then. So THR, even with Grankvist sort of effectively out of the picture here, they are struggling to get both cars in the top 10 here. At the moment, it's all going Valet's way, but Matthew Williams has just set the fastest first sector of anybody.
Yes, indeed, Matthew Williams, a purple time there, and that means, of course, that he's faster than the leader's time, than Alessandro Maggio's time. It is also a true purple, meaning he is the fastest overall, not just faster than the leader, and I can see that on raceview.com, the fantastic site that we use for timing during these sessions. Matthew Williams, a good second sector as well. This is looking promising from him. Jarl Tyen 6th. If he qualifies in the top 10 after that accident earlier on, he will, I'm sure, be very pleased with that indeed. Williams coming up towards the final corner of the lap now. There's multiple different lines that you can take through here, and he's got it absolutely hooked up right next to the barrier, but does not hit it. Up to the line he goes. DRS wide open, and is it pole? It's second. Ooh. Matthew Williams goes second, just 400ths of a second off of Alessandro Maggio's time. Now, who else is on a lap? It looks like that might be it. What about Carlos Martin, maybe? Carlos Martin up to the line. This, I think it'll put him in the top 5, not necessarily the lead. It does not. He stays 8th, so not a great time, and that final sector let him down, I'm afraid to say.
Pascal Pollen's still going.
Pascal Pollen's up to the line. This is looking promising. This could move him up to 21st. Okay, it wasn't as promising as I thought it was, and I think that should be it for this qualifying session. So Alessandro Maggio, just as he did in Australia, sets the fastest qualifying time of all. Now, back in Australia, he was given a grid penalty that was hanging over from the previous season. Today, he will have no such bad luck. So Alessandro Maggio claims his first pole position in GPVWC Super League, just ahead of Matthew Williams, then Alessandro's valet teammate Sergio Fletcher, Loic Mounier, Moritz Kropp, Jarl Tyen, Robin Panzer, Carlos Martin, Tom Stevens and Mark Schluter. And by the way, Jan Grankvist did not get out in time to set a qualifying lap. He will start right from the back. Szymon Frelick was 11th, then it was Jukka-Pekka Laulu 12th. Almost the last chance for Super Venturi in this one. Thomas Vogt P13, then Sven Schubert, Jeffrey Fournier, Chris Shepherd, David Feidock on his return. How good it is to see him back. Maciej Munich is 18th, then Stein Hangraf and Alex Lahoe. And then moving on to the last slide, Pascal Pollens, Zolt Schukes, Stefan Roll, Riot Kilk, Heigo Poom, Vincent Gutt, Wopke Hoekstra and Istvang Singel round out the grid of people who set times. Dylan Fisher, of course, had a crash, and Jan Grankvist never got out in the first place. So the championship leader will start right from the back of the grid. How very exciting. Anyway, just to remind you of where we are in this championship, we have a highlights package edited for us by Ed Hunter, and our broadcast director Remco has that on standby. So this is from the last race at Japan. Let's remind ourselves of exactly what happened then. There they are, 5 red lights, and it's go! Jan Grankvist will lead them away, cars fanning out in the background, and Lahoe drops back. He couldn't quite get side by side with Grankvist into turn 1. Mounier comes through in P3, then it's Martin and Maggio. Looks to be clean at the front. It's usually at the back where things happen though, so I'm speaking way too early. And then up through the S's we go. So important to get this right. And somebody's spinning.
Stevens is around.
THRs, and I think it's both of the THRs. Both THRs are dropping down the order. My goodness, what a disaster for the reigning team's champions. And here is Jarl Tyen. You can see the THRs are together. Please tell me it wasn't the THRs who kicked this off. They're still side by side. It was! They tangle wheels, and the 2-time team's champions both go around and smash into the back of them. Go pretty much everyone. Around went Jukka-Pekka Laulu, and here's how Tom Stevens saw it. He's side by side with Jarl Tyen, and it just converged on the exit of the corner. There! And around he goes, and then wallop! My goodness! I think that was Dylan... Oh, it was Heigo Poom getting involved initially. There's Quint. There's Singel. He's the car just ahead. Laulu goes for a spin. And now we're going to see it on board with Mike Quint, who is still trying to get it back to the pit lane on 3 wheels. Ooh, and there it goes. He's coming into the Degner curves now. These are difficult in... Oh, and he's round and wallop. And that's his second crash of the day, but unfortunately this time it is terminal, Ed. And in the background, I think the TOP esports cars are swapping. There you go. So Szymon Frelick has been released now. Meanwhile, Mounier has caught up to Alex Lahoe. He'll get up the inside, and that's important because that's where you need to be for the first corner. Through he goes.
Szymon Frelick well in the DRS now. Is going to try and snatch that third place away from him, and with a bit of push to pass at his aid as well, he's well up the inside into turn 1, and Frelick up to third. Because now we're going to see Martin breeze past Lahoe into 130. The important move there. Yeah, I think Martin made a mistake. Oh, it's into the Degners. As we see, he's just gone straight in the gravel.
Yeah, there was a mistake. You saw him dip wheels into the gravel up ahead, and that just dragged the car wide. That's what I meant earlier when the curbs caused the cars to skate. And indeed, he's lost 2 places as a result of that. We see this on board, and yeah, that's just what happens in the Degners. We've all done it so many times, whether it's in practice or in a race. And most of us have ended up in that wall on the outside there. Jan Grankvist pits from the lead. Let's take a look at that because the leader is in.
As in comes Maggio. And now it looks like Mounier, is he going to pit? Yes, he is. So it was high time he responded, and Szymon Frelick shadowing him like a ghost as they go into the pit box.
Matthew Williams into the pits now, so Carlos Martin will have his turn to lead. He's got a good run out of the chicane there. That's where the softer tyres help you, because you can get the traction. There's Williams coming out of the pits ahead of them, and does get ahead, and Maggio goes sweeping past Alex Lahoe into turn 1.
See our top 2, Martin and Milnet coming into the lead. So Chris Shepherd is going to lead for Red Archer.
So Zolt Schukes in the S's has a big kick and a big spin. I did that in the second FS2 race actually, and it's a double triple spin. My goodness, 2.5
2.5 times round, backs it into the gravel.
As now we see Matthew Williams about to easily clear Lalu on the fresh hard tyres there.
As Chris Shepherd pits and Jan Grankvist will go back to the lead.
Schluter at least was on course to get something out of today, and he just lost it so early on through Degner 1, and he's just a passenger through the gravel at that point.
And we're swapping
Road to
positions
Formula.
here. Road to Formula have swapped positions with Tomasz Vlk going ahead of Alex Lahoe now. And Meunier takes the lead. My goodness. Well, we weren't expecting that to happen right now, but presumably Meunier dumped his push to pass, and Loic Meunier has taken the lead of the race.
Here we go. Meunier, he pulled a really good gap to Frelick just before 130R, and then had a great exit from Casio Triangle, dumped his push to pass, as you say. DRS did the rest of the job, and so too did Loic Meunier.
And there's a move, and Pascal Pollens is 8th now. He passes Alex Lahoe.
Because now Fletcher gets himself past Alex Lahoe. There's Milnek, picks off Alex Lahoe for 10th then.
We'll have to wait and see. Chris Shepherd now on the back of Alex Lahoe. Lahoe, who continues to drop down. He was right at the pointy end earlier in the day, but those hard tyres just have not worked out for him. Shepherd goes to the inside. That's brave to hold it around the outside into turn 1 for Alex Lahoe, but he's made a mistake now. He has a big twitch, goes onto the grass, and Stefan Ruhl is up into 12th position.
Grankvist tucks him behind. Is he going to be close enough for a move? He is close enough. He goes up the inside of Meunier. A little bit of contact, but Grankvist is back in the lead. Sergio Fletcher is out of the race. Let's take a look at what happened. He just travelled a little bit too far over the curb at Digna 2 and wham! Into the wall and out. Stefan Ruhr has retired from 9th position. Here he is coming into the pit lane. He goes over the bump, and the HRT, it seems, will go no further. Big shame for the Dutchman.
It's Pascal Pollens back into the top 10, and Stein Hangraf is fighting. That's a big mistake from Shimon Frelick. Frelick runs wide at Spoon. He has to be careful on the rejoin. He can't rejoin into the side of Williams. They're side by side up the hill. If he can duck back into the slipstream, he might have a chance of getting back into that one. Now we're onto the start-finish straight again. Frelick will have another chance, goes to the inside. I think Williams knows he can't fend him off. And luckily for Frelick, that won't cost him a podium position in the long run. It's going to be the Degners. We're going to see a replay of it now. And he loses it, and he loops it around. That's a big slide, and he goes into the wall on the outside. That's a bit of the wall we haven't seen hit yet today. Well, we're seeing a replay of Lahoe.
Very close to the curb at Degner 1, but seems okay. Whoa! Big 360-degree spin. Lahoe did well, actually, to save that one. And this is what befell poor Daniel Brewer. I think he's just going to... Is he just going to dip a wheel in the grass or just take too much speed into turn 1?
Well, it's the curb that gets him.
Maggio, by the way, who, of course, pit for fresh tyres now, easily picks off. He was catching Chris Shepherd at 7/8 tenths a lap there. And that's a very straightforward move.
This could still be a chance, you know, as they get onto the straight. And you see him now as he has the DRS open. He has the slipstream. He's getting closer. He will go for it into turn 1. Grankvist doesn't cover it off. Meunier goes through and off. Grankvist is off. He runs wide. And he rejoins just in front of Frelick. So he doesn't lose a place from that. But he will lose DRS from Meunier. And he leads the race with 1 to go. That was tight from Maggio, trying to find a way past Tomasz Vlk, the 2023 winner of this race. As Frelick is trying to line up Grankvist for second. Goes to the outside of the chicane on the last lap, forces Grankvist to cut the corner. They're going to come together on the last corner, and around the final turn, Loic Meunier becomes a GPVWC Super League race winner in just his 6th Grand Prix. That is amazing stuff. So the final results are Loic Meunier winning his first GPVWC Super League race in just his 6th Grand Prix. Jan Grankvist is second, losing out on the penultimate lap of the race. What is it with Jan losing the Japanese Grand Prix late on? Shimon Frelick is third, and Matthew Williams is fourth. Then it's Carlos Martin, Maciej Winnick, Tomasz Vlk, Alessandro Maggio, Chris Shepherd, and Pascal Pollens, who is 10th. As we move on to the second tile, Jakub Ekalalu does score points in 11th position. Riot Kilk does a good job from the back of the grid to climb up to 12th position. That's quite a climb up the order. Alex Lahoe unfortunately dropped all the way down to 13th with that big spin at the end, but he was already in dire straits, having just not gelled with that hard tyre. Vincent Gutt, P14, also scores points for Spark. Stein Hangraf gets what I think are his first points of the season, and they definitely are, because it's Greenstride's first points of the season in 15th. Alright everyone, welcome back to GPVWC Super League. As you've just seen, we've just come from the Japanese Grand Prix 2 weeks ago. It was won by Loic Mounier, the most recent winner in GPVWC. And every race in the championship, all 3 of the races we've done so far, have had at least one new driver on the podium who hasn't been on the podium before. In the first race it was Alex Lahoud, in the second race it was Loic Mounier, and in the third race, last time out, it was Szymon Frelick. Will we get a 4th name to add to that list today? Well, I tell you what, Moritz Kropp was looking pretty good in qualifying, as were a few other drivers.
And don't forget our valet drivers, Caitlin, as well.
Our valet drivers, Sergio Fletcher, indeed.
Neither of them on the podium before.
So it can absolutely happen, and I tell you what, anything can happen at Jeddah, and as Murray Walker would say, usually does, or indeed probably will. This circuit, of course, I always think looks a bit like a melted knife when you look at it on the map, but it has some real character to it. It may just be another street circuit, and we seem to be getting way too many street circuits in the real life Grand Prix calendar nowadays. But at least this one has some personality to it. It's I would say extremely dangerous with the high speed blind corners and the high curbs and the close walls, but it always provides an unexpected result. Obviously, last year we got Jan Grankvist taking his first victory here, despite a big off at the first corner. It was one of the most exciting races of the year, in my opinion, where he went on a completely different strategy to the THR guys who he was racing with, and ended up just about coming out on top. And yeah, it really is one of those circuits where even if you don't have the pace to challenge the top guys, if you just keep on going, drive your own race, you can find yourself with an unexpected heap of points. And I really think that anyone can score today, even the drivers starting right at the back end.
Well, yeah, certainly Jan Grankvist will be hoping so, because he starts at the very, very, very back, of course. But yeah, there's a big opportunity for the likes of Matthew Williams, you see on screen at the moment, and for the 2 valet drivers of Maggio and Fletcher, of course, who they said after Suzuka that they're 7th in the championship, and their aim is to get back into the top 5. And if they can get one or both of their cars on the podium, that would go a long way towards doing that. But here, of course, Caitlin, are those championship standings. You can see the lead that Grankvist has got, 25 points clear of Loic Mounier, and Mounier knows this is a great chance. He might not be able to get on song with Grankvist at the end of this. If he gets 25 points, at best he can tie with him, but he can get significantly closer, because Grankvist has enjoyed a big gap for a long time now, hasn't he? At the end of last season, he just had to manage a gap to Stevens and Mark Schluter, and then this season he's built up a big gap over the first 2 races, and now there's the threat. Somebody's really come to threaten him in the early part of the season, which certainly has changed things completely, and we can't forget about the likes of Szymon Frelick and Matthew Williams, who aren't too far behind, both of them quite close to Mounier on the grid. In fact, Matthew Williams, of course, 2nd, so he's ahead of him. But so yeah, I think all of our top 4 could well be in the thick of the action today, with a couple others threatening to join the party as well.
Yeah, great graphic actually. I didn't know we had this one on standby, but really good stuff. Jan Grankvist, as you can see, at the top by quite a long way, but I don't think that tells the full story, because of course Mounier had to miss the first round of the championship due to technical issues, and he'll be ruining that at this point in the season. Who knows where he could be if that had not happened. Mounier is 2nd. He's been the real standout performer of the year so far. I'm not sure anyone really expected that, but for the brand new Spark Racing team, Mounier has been doing an awesome job. Szymon Frelick, 3rd place, despite no wins just yet, but of course we're still very early in the championship. I'm pretty sure he told us he wouldn't be racing here this weekend, but I mean, I guess he's a liar, because here he is, and that's a good thing too, because we want to see as many of the top
drivers out here as we possibly can. I've also heard that my former commentary partner Ross McIntyre is engineering those guys at the last minute for TOP Esports, and he says that if they have a really bad day today, then that's his fault because his R-Factor 2 game has bricked itself, and so he's going entirely off of the race view results. Williams fourth in the championship, followed by Martin, Stevens, Woch, Lahu, Winnick and Pansar as it stands. Right, now we're away on the formation lap, so let's take a look at the starting grid if we can. This is up to date with all penalties and everything like that. Alessandro Maggio will go from first position, followed by Matthew Williams, then Sergio Fletcher and Loic Mounier. What a qualifying it was for the Valet Esports team, who I was laughed at for saying would be contenders for race wins before this season. Moritz Kropp is fifth, great job from him. Jarl Tyen sixth with that penalty on appeal. Then it's Robin Panzer in seventh and Carlos Martin in eighth. Then Tom Stevens and Mark Schluter, who were fighting for second in last year's championship. Timon Frelick P11, not as good as he normally does. Jörg-Pekka Lalu P12, the top Super Venturi for once. Thomas Schwab P13, then Sven Schubert, Jeffrey Fournier and Chris Shepherd. I think that maybe ties Sven Schubert's best GPVWC Super League qualifying performance. David Feidock on his return is P17, then it's Mathieu Winnick, Stein Handgraf and Alex Lahoe. We were just saying Lahoe's season has rather dropped off since the first round. He'll be hoping for a resurgence before long. Then it's Pascal Pollens, Zolt Schukes, Stefan Ruhl and Riot Kilk. Stefan Ruhl had some technical issues in the last race, but I've been reliably told that they are all behind him now. Igo Poon P25, then Vincent Gutt, Wopke Hoekstra and Isfang Singel, who joined qualifying rather late but was still able to set a timed lap. Dylan Fisher P29, he crashed in qualifying but was looking very competitive before then. And then Jan Grankvist is P30, the championship leader, going off the very back of the grid with a quite worn engine. What can he do today, if anything? So Ed, that is the grid. We're coming to the start now, and we've got two unexpected drivers up in the top three here. Valet Esports first and third, the brand new team. What will they be feeling like as they wait for the lights to go out?
Well, I suppose a lot of pressure on them, isn't there? Especially on Maggio, of course, who, with that amazing pole position, finally gets to start from pole for the first time in Super League. Although it's the second time, of course, he's been fastest in qualifying. He's always had that speed, but there will be question marks. Can he keep these tyres alive? Will Sergio Fletcher be able to help him? Will Matthew Williams get the drop on him at the start? So many unknowns that we can't forget about Moinier, who was looking to take advantage in fourth. Or we cannot discount the THRs. We cannot even discount Jan Grankvist, who will, of course, complete the very tail of the field, along with Dylan Fisher as well, both with points to prove. So it's all set up rather fascinatingly. This is going to be a very, very exciting start to this race.
So here we go then, 30 cars on the grid. It's a massive field of cars that we have in GPVWC Super League. You can see the lights at the front of the grid. When they go up, the revs will rise, the engine notes will also rise with them, and when the lights go out, we will be underway for 50 laps of the Jeddah circuit, which is now. Away we go. Maggio gets a good start, and he will cover off the rest of the field into turn one. Side by side for second are Williams and Fletcher, and it looks as if at least the top 10 have all got through the first couple of corners cleanly. Now we head into the fast sweeping middle part of the course with the high curves. You've got to be so careful about the dirty air of the car in front of you here. It can cause you to understeer into the barriers or off the track entirely. Tomasz Wok here in P13, just ahead of Sven Schubert, who had a good qualifying session and a good start that has kept him in that 14th position. As for Jan Grankvist, championship leader, he's up a place already, up into 29th position. We're now just past the well, we're coming up to the halfway point in the lap, just past that long left-hand hairpin. I guess it's a hairpin, but you can actually take it in third or fourth gear. And as a result, is actually quite fast. Up to 6th gear, 7th gear, nearly up to the top of the revs now. 8th gear, and over 300 kilometers per hour. This is possibly the most dangerous part of the course. And then you have a little flick down to 4th, 5th gear through the left-hander and back out towards the end of the course. Maggio still leads, followed by Williams and Fletcher, but Alessandro already pulls a 1 second gap. If he can keep that going on to the second lap, he'd have broken DRS before it's even active. What a great first lap there for Alessandro Maggio, Ed, and I think it was completely clean for all 30 cars.
Yeah, Maggio absolutely nailed it. That was a magic getaway off the line as he swings it into that first chicane. He is absolutely loving this, of course. Not out of the woods yet, Matthew Williams. He hates to be underestimated, and I'm sure he's going to be pushing hard to keep Maggio in sight here. He's certainly kept Fletcher behind him. Moynier was actually also having a go at Fletcher into that opening corner of the race as well before having to back out. The big loser, as far from what I can tell on this first lap, is Jukka-Pekka Laulu in that first of the Super Venturas, number 52. He dropped 3 or 4 positions then on that first. Yeah, 4 positions exactly, because he's behind Chris Shepherd now. As we see, somebody's hit trouble in the first sector. That doesn't sound good. There's no small accidents. Very few small accidents around here, Caitlin.
Yeah, I noticed that Riot Kilk came into the pits at the end of the first lap.
Oh, Singel's out.
Sans front wing, and yes, Istvan Singel is out of the race. Presumably, he was the cause of the yellow flag in the first sector. We're going to see a replay now. This is Istvan Singel coming through to turn 4. There's a big curb on the outside. But he's not going to hit the curb. He's going to smash into the barriers back first and lose that wheel. And unlike Jarl Tyne in qualifying, he is not going to be able to make it back to the pits. So Singel is our first retirement. And in that replay, you just about saw Riot Kilk going through in the pit lane, as he was also an early casualty. So we are on to lap 3 of the race that we're about to start. Maggio has not quite broken DRS from Matthew Williams. He very nearly did. New best lap time there from Maggio, but I expect some of the cars with Slipstream and DRS further back might be able to match that time. Williams getting slightly closer in the first chicane. He is not going to let Maggio get away, but as we saw from the Super Lights race the other day, we may well have a situation where there's a little bit of a DRS train up until the first pit stop, and then the race picks up from there. One thing I was wondering about, and this is directed at our broadcast director, Remco. I'd like to see the tyres that everyone's on, if that's okay, because I didn't quite have time to check that out in the warm-up lap. Alex Laho looks like is the top driver on medium tyres, but nobody electing for the hardest compound of tyre, which is, I guess, that's reasonable because this is not a particularly high deg circuit. The tyres can very much survive a couple of laps around here. But interesting to see absolutely nobody going for the alternate strategy, and you just have to look out for those drivers on medium tyres to run a little bit longer and try something a little bit different. In terms of pit stop strategies today, it should be one stop for pretty much everyone, especially if the Super Lights race was anything to go by, Ed.
Yeah, certainly, but the timing of that stop could well be decisive in terms of who undercuts each other and who has got the freshest tyres at the end of the race as well could be a big factor too. But yeah, of course, what the interesting thing is how Valle are managing this. Maggio, it's sort of, there's a bit of an accordion effect here where Maggio sort of gets caught in the last 2 sectors, but he's really strong in the first. As we see Sven Schubert all over the back of Chris Shepherd here in the fight for 14th position, and that's Lalu right behind them as well, looking to regain those positions he lost at the start of the race then. So yeah, Chris Shepherd getting by Chris Schubert in all of that, and now they're catching up to Thomas Vack, who's only just ahead of them as well. So this is a very, very intense fight for the last couple of points positions here, and boy, could Fraser Tartan use a couple of those after the last couple of races they've had, and they're very, very lucky, I think, and grateful that they've got Sven back in that car, because he's been one of their strongest drivers of the season so far, looking to make an impression here. And yeah, Chris Shepherd certainly had to fight to get past him there into the first corner.
Yeah, and they're both ahead of Jukka-Pekka Laulu, who, as you said earlier, has had a really bad start. That means neither of the Super Venturi cars, the team's championship leaders, are now in the points. Although Granqvist is making progress, he's up to 25th position already in this race. And there you see him. His next target is Pascal Pollens in the Edge Esports car. I messaged Remco de Zeeuw, the team boss of Edge Esports, earlier, saying, I think it's a bit of a shame not to see the Edge Esports cars near the front of the pack. Whoa, big twitch from Granqvist, and he gathers it up.
But yeah, it hasn't been a great start to the season for Edge. They're 12th in the team's championship, and we've previously seen them fighting for wins. And I think we're all secretly rooting for them to get closer to the front of the field, but for now they're going to be demoted by Jan Grankvist, who goes through into 24th position. And what happened?
Hoekstra in the wall in the background there. Wopke Hoekstra just went very deep into turn 27 and had full-on contact there, so that's not going to help Greenstripes one bit there. But I think, just small correction there, I believe Remco is the team boss of Optiminal and our broadcast director. I think it's Rodrigo Carvalho who's the team principal of Edge.
Is that what I said?
Yeah.
I meant Rodrigo. I did.
Okay.
Sorry, I thought...
Rodrigo knew he meant. It's two names beginning with R, so it's an easy mistake to make here, isn't it? So we cut back to Moritz Kropp trying to put pressure on the man, the most recent race winner, the new race winner, of course, in Super League, Loic Moynier. Oh, he had to wait a long time in his sim racing career to reach Super League, and only a 6th start, he was victorious, of course, as we saw in the highlights just during the warm-up. But now Moritz Kropp, of course, who I think his best result is a top 5, isn't it? Was it top 5, top 4 at Imola a season or two ago for this team, of course, Fraser Tartan, or as Nocturne as it was known last season. And yeah, it's good to see them with both cars in the points at the moment, with Sven Schubert, of course, just hanging on to that final points paying position. But yeah, Moritz Kropp can keep the leaders in sight here. Even if he can't make a move on them, then he'd be in a very, very good position. But of course, their old rivals, THR and Jarl Tyne, are not far behind. And we know Jarl isn't shy about showing his car up the inside. As here's Dylan Fisher in the middle of a huge fight here with Zolt Zux, Pascal Pollens just dueling away in front of him. Pollens goes around the outside of Zux, but now here comes the slipstream battle, and Fisher's got to pick a side here, otherwise he's going to be stuck behind in that first corner.
3 wide down towards the first corner, and on the inside Dylan Fisher makes up at least one place. Very, very close there to contact with Zolt Zux, very close to the barrier as well, and he's going to lose out once again to Pascal Pollens, who comes around the outside and does get back through. Sorry, I didn't mean Zolt. Oh yes, I did. Never mind. I'm getting doubly confused in this scrap near the back. This is for 25th, 26th, and 27th positions. Over the curb goes Pollens. Probably would have got a little track limit strike for that one. You get a certain number of points that you can build up to with those track limit strikes, and then if you go over that, you get a penalty. There were a few drivers with penalties in the Formula Sprint 2 race, and I think a few in the FS1 as well. So you do need to be careful with doing that here, and of course that curb can easily spit you off, so even if you don't get any track limits penalties, you might still fall foul of the track as a result of that. DRS wide open, but the trouble is that Pollens also has DRS from Zux up ahead. 2 big twitches, both of them nearly going around and catching it very well, and Fisher somehow still gets a good run on Pollens and takes a look to the inside. There's more DRS down here, and he'll get up the inside into the final corner. The trouble is,
into third. He's past
that
Fletcher.
leaves you vulnerable down the straight, and as you say, Loic Mounier is up into 3rd position, side by side with Fletcher, and Sergio Fletcher has to settle for 4th position as it stands. That would have been the slipstream down the start-finish straight, probably DRS as well, that has elevated Loic Mounier into 3rd place. And as you said earlier, this is a very important day for Mounier, with his main championship rival struggling. Jan Grankvist down near the back. Loic Mounier can build up a good number of points today, get closer to Jan in that fight for the lead of the championship. A podium will go down swimmingly.
Yeah, and of course, it's this first stint where, of course, he's got a massive track position advantage, and he's got the softer tyre where Moynier needs to make hay, and he's done exactly that by picking off Sergio Fletcher, who just seemed to be struggling because he was just starting to lose a little bit of touch with Matthew Williams. But this is exactly what Williams did not want, because Moynier is now setting purple middle sectors, catching up to the back of him and Maggio. He wanted Alessandro Maggio all to himself, but Matthew Williams still, he would be on course for his best result in second, but now he knows the man who gave him such a hard time in Istanbul Park. If you remember, there was that huge fight between Moynier, Williams and Frelick that Loic Moynier was ultimately the victor of in that fight for second. They're fighting for second again, but this time it's Maggio leading them instead of Grankvist. As now we see Moritz Krop. He fancies a go at Fletcher. Fletcher is just being picked off down the straight. I wonder how much downforce is on that valet round the outside. Goes the Fraser Tartan. Is there enough room for Moritz? Oh, slides. There's a little bit of wheel contact between the both of them, but Krop just about squeezes his way through. But I don't think Fletcher will be too happy about that one. But yeah, he just does not have the straight line speed in these battles here.
Yeah, little touch, but I think that was just about fair. By the way, good memory, Ed. Moritz Krop's best result was indeed at the San Marino Grand Prix last year, and that was a 4th place finish. Another yellow flag out there, and I saw a name flick down the order. It's Hygo Poom, and Poom is out of the race. So we've had our 2nd retirement now. Unfortunately, Poom was well outside of the points anyway, with that whole team, the AKA Hero team, struggling. And he's fighting with Zoltschuk's in this replay. Cuts the first couple of corners, rejoins the track. Now what happens?
It's right down.
And he stops. Okay, well, day done for Hygo Poom, maybe with some technical issues or something like that. His day is done right from the beginning.
Did he get a big penalty maybe? That he just decided to call it a day? Yeah, there we go. He shifted out into 4th and then back into 3rd before coming to a stop. So either that was a hardware issue or potentially he got a massive penalty for cutting the first chicane. We would have seen something on screen if he'd done that, though.
Yeah, but it's not like he... Oh, no, big twitch for Moritz Krop there. It's not like he, shifted down a gear instead of up a gear and then blew the engine or whatever. It all seemed to be under control. He just pulled it up. So there we go, out of the race. Little twitch in the background as Fletcher tries to fend off Tyan. Goes right over to the left-hand side to stop Tyan from going there instead. And fends off that 5th position. He's dropping back from the top 4 as it stands. It was a good start from Fletcher, but I think it's just fallen away from him as other drivers have started to pick up the pace, and Fletcher not quite able to do the same. Currently, after 9 laps, Maggio leads from Williams, Mounier, Krop and Fletcher, but Jarl Tyan is all over the back of him and looking racy at this point in time, Ed. So, with Fletcher seemingly losing pace and dropping back from the top 4, what could be happening to him?
Yeah, I think it might be something to do with the way that this valet is set up. I did sort of speculate that maybe he's not got the straight line speed advantage, or maybe Valet's plan was lock out the front row and sort of work together. But now maybe if their opposition have trimmed down the rear wings so there's less drag and they're really speedy down the straights, that's making a difference. Whereas Fletcher maybe was very handy through the corners and the high-speed stuff, but is a little bit vulnerable and exposed at this point. So I think Maggio maybe is just able to live with what's a very tricky car, the way they've set it up around the Jeddah Corniche circuit. Whereas Fletcher is struggling a bit more. The other thing is maybe he's just chewing, because the rears are starting to go. I think maybe he's just chewing through those soft tyres more quickly than anticipated. And Jarl Tyan has got a brilliant chance with the DRS. I don't think Fletcher is going to be able to defend this one. Up the inside goes the THR into the top 5. And now he's going to be able to join that battle. They're all within about 1.5 seconds of the top 4. So Maggio is controlling the pace, which is quite impressive to see at the moment. But Williams is a big, big threat at this phase of the race.
Loho and Schubert both just lost a little bit of time, and it looks as if Jukka-Pekka Laulu's got back through into 14th position now. There was also a brief yellow flag. Jan Grankvist now up into the top 20, because I think Hangraf is dropping back, but doesn't look like there was an incident or anything. That was just close quarters racing. Grankvist now up into 19th position, passing Vincent Gutt, so he's been on the move for the last couple of corners. We're going to see a replay of something now, and this is Stein Handgraf. Now this is a round where some of the action happened, so did anything happen to Stein?
That's
Goes
Milner.
into the corner. Oh, contact with Winnick, and he spins around, and that is what happened. And you can see Grankvist in the background having just got past Vincent Gutt, and then Handgraf also demoted by the likes of Gutt, and Winnick running wide, and that, wow, big schmozzle. Winnick dropping right down the order. Okie dokie, so back to the live action. Maggio still up in front, but you can see how close Williams is to the back of him now. And Mounier and Krop, and even Tyan coming with him. You made a good point earlier that if Valet had locked out the front row of the grid, they could have gamed the system effectively and used that DRS train to their advantage, because you can only really be overtaken in this field if someone else has a significant pace advantage over you, as Robin Panzer passes Sergio Fletcher for 6th position, just at the back of the shot there. But yeah, you can only really be passed if an opponent has a significant speed advantage over you. So if you can give your teammate the DRS and hold those first two positions. Whoa! And a massive twitch from Maggio, and that was wow, flashback to Australia then, where he took pole position but then spun off and crashed by himself later in the race. This time he's just about held it, but that would have got the pulse racing there. Alessandro Maggio gathers it up, but he's going to be super vulnerable to Matthew Williams now, who will have a much better run, Ed Hunter.
Yeah, he's under so much pressure, Maggio. So a little mistake there, and of course he can't afford to run off track too many times because he could get a track limits penalty if he does so. So now Matthew Williams, his eyes will be lighting up as he sees that, needs to set himself up well to challenge Maggio, who I think he's running into some of the same issues that Fletcher was running into. Fletcher's now behind Robin Panzar as well. So Panzar snuck his way through into 6th. As we see in the background, that looks like Tyen challenging. Oh, and not a big fight from Rotzkrop, who decides to lift off the throttle. Maybe he'll try and get DRS down the main straight there, but the Fraser Tartan very cooperative now, and Tyen knows Moynier's next in line as he sets a personal best lap last time around. Matthew Williams, oh, a little push to pass used by Maggio just to prevent the Englishman from diving up the inside into the first chicane there. So Maggio dusts himself off, recollects himself, but it's starting to get very, very tense here in this 5, potentially 6-way fight for the lead here.
Yeah, there's a DRS train stretching back to about 12th position. This is awesome stuff here in GPVWC Super League. And Alessandro Maggio fending off Williams, Mounier, etc. for the time being. You sometimes see drivers taking it a little bit easy in the opening stage of the race, using this DRS train to keep them involved in the lead battle, and then they use the strategy to their advantage later on. Talking of strategy, I noticed Chris Shepherd went into the pits a couple of laps ago. Maybe he is going for an unusual 2-stop strategy here. Also, I'm afraid to say, Stefan Rohl has become our 3rd retirement of the race. We're going to see a replay now of that big twitch from Alessandro Maggio. He's coming through this first sector of the track. Now this, I think, is where it happened. Whoa! Big twitch. Gathers it up. And he is very lucky that the car didn't suddenly find grip halfway through that slide and ping him off towards the barriers. That's kind of what happened in Australia at the first chicane. But he seems to have built out a bit of a gap, actually, in the early stage of this lap. Look, Mounier taking a look at Matthew Williams. Now they're heading on to the start-finish straight. This might give Jarl Tyen a chance to get back up into the top 3, or to get up into the top 3, I should say. I think they're going to go side by side down the straight. Someone came into the pits. Was that Krop? Krop pitting further back. He's going for a 2-stop strategy then. And there's also a move at the back of the shot. Was that Jeffrey Fournier?
That's Lalu trying to pass Thomas Vack for 12th, and he's done it into the first chicane. It's a good move from Lalu to try and recover that lost ground. But yes, it's Moritz Krop who's the first to blink.
Both Fraser Tartans into the pits, so going for the same strategy. Now, hopefully they don't need to double stack in the pits. I think they do have separate grid boxes now. It used to be that you actually weren't allowed to bring both of your cars in at the same time. You got a driving penalty for double stacking your cars. But in this one, they seem to, or at least since then, they seem to have sorted it out so that you can actually pit 2 cars at the same time. But yeah, both Moritz Krop and Sven Schubert doing exactly the same thing there. Jarl Tyen now in 4th position. He's been on the move, of course, started the race in 6th place. We saw him pass Sergio Fletcher not too long ago, and then very quickly made the move on Krop. Robin Panter is up to 5th position now, having also passed Fletcher himself. The biggest mover in the race so far has been Jan Grankvist, up 14 places from the very back of the field. That is not surprising whatsoever for the championship leader to have been on the move. Loic Mounier taking a little look there up the inside of Williams, but that's ill-advised actually, going on to the start-finish straight, because that gives you a worse exit to the corner, and Jarl Tyen might now have a look at him. Here he goes, Jarl Tyen side by side with Loic Mounier for 3rd position. He's got to get it hooked up so as not to go into the back of Matthew Williams ahead of him. He goes around the outside of Mounier through turn 2. A really good move there for Jarl Tyen, and the THR driver is up onto the podium. As in the background we saw more battling between Martin, Frelick, Schluter, etc. Really good racing wherever you look in this field.
It was Tom
Sorry, what was
Stevens
that?
passing Martin. That was what happened.
Yeah.
That was a good couple of corners for THR. One car gets on the podium, the other car gets into the top 7 then. So yeah, the TOPs, I think Mike and Suzuka, we might be about to see a Martin Frelick swap here after a slightly disappointing qualifying for Simon Frelick, where again his Spanish teammate has got him bearing down on him at this early phase of the race then. Yeah, for Moynier, that was sort of he couldn't really risk colliding with the Altan there, could he? So it was a smarter move to let that one go and let Tyne exhaust himself fighting with Williams and Maggio then. But of course, with Fraser Tartan making an early pit stop, Moritz Kropp's come into traffic behind Dylan Fisher, although he's just past Fisher now. So those old mediums that done 14 laps, clearly no match for the new mediums on Moritz Kropp's car there. But he's within 19 seconds of Maggio, so Moritz Kropp has probably got the undercut here.
Probably, but of course, having pitted earlier, he'll have to he'll probably have to stop again if I get my words in the right order. Tom Stevens is well and truly involved in this lead battle now. That's the great thing about having such a long DRS train. He's side by side, but also look at Jarl Tyne going to the lead. Alessandro Maggio is into the pits. Jarl Tyne leads the race now, having passed Matthew Williams on the straight. So it's Tyne first, Williams second, then Mounier, Pansar, Stevens. Stevens having got past Fletcher himself up into that 5th position. So Maggio, Lalu and Thomas Vogt all in the pits on this lap, all probably doing those 2 stops in this race. Of course, one thing we have to be wary of is the fact that you don't have to stop twice, providing you go onto a different compound of tyre from the one that you started on, and so they can technically run long from here. And in a track where it might be difficult to overtake, that might actually be a good strategy to employ. But I guess we've got to wait and see. Yellow flag out, and I think Winnick's losing time. Winnick is out of the race. So our 4th retirement of the race is Maciej Winnick for Adonis Engineering. And that is a big shame for a driver who really has not been living up to expectations this year, at least not my expectations. I know how good Maciej Winnick can be. There's more yellows out there, so it might not be over yet. But anyway, and we're going to see a replay of it now. So Maciej Winnick is racing with...
That's Maggio.
With Maggio, Maggio's just made his pit stop. Now Maggio is very eager to get past him, and into the wall goes Winnick, just kicks the rear end around. I don't think that was as a result of contact with Maggio. I do think they brushed wheels, but I don't think that was a direct result of that. Now here's Sven Schubert. Has anything happened to the FTR driver? He gets on the curb and smashes into the barrier, and that will be the end of the day for Sven as well. A big shame after qualifying in the point scoring positions, and unfortunately that leaves FTR's hopes all up to Moritz Kropp. As into the pits there, Frelick and Fournier, Ed Hunter.
Yeah, that looked, Caitlin, a little bit like Sven got spooked by Maciej Milnick's stranded car there and just panicked. And I think for Milnick, obviously there was a bit of contact. I think Maggio was entitled to use the fresher grip on that tyre to try and go around the outside there, but there was a little bit of contact, and then Milnick went offline, and that was when the rear let go, essentially. So it was a bit unfortunate there, but it wasn't as though Maggio intentionally bumped offline. There just wasn't really quite enough space. 2 into 1 is a bit of a tricky equation through the sort of first and middle sectors here at Jeddah Corniche. But anyway, that is for Milnick, of course. He wasn't having a great race already, and him and Grankvist have one of the most worn-out engines in the field there. Speaking of which, there's Moritz Kropp clearing Jan Grankvist, and Grankvist sensibly decides on those worn mediums not to fight that one, as through 20 and 21 the rears absolutely drift around there. And into the pits comes somebody. I thought maybe my eyes are just playing tricks on me there. Matthew Williams did decide to stay out for another lap then, so has Maggio pulled the trigger a bit early? It's Fletcher actually that has come in there.
Yeah, Fletcher is struggling. David Fidok is also into the pits. Quick correction, I think I said that Winnick was racing for Adonis. He's not, he's racing for HRT. I'm always getting those 2 teams confused. Maggio there goes past Fisher. And also in the background, looks like Shimon Frelick was putting a move on Zolchuk's. Anyway, so my apologies about that. And unfortunately, that means that both of the HRT drivers are out of the race. Been a torrid day for that team, and I think the whole team at Adonis
has more pace than, has more promise than performance at this stage of the championship. They can absolutely do better. I mean, they've got a 3-time Grand Prix winner and then the 2021 champion in their squad. Surely they will be gutted with how this season has gone so far. Anyway, looks as if Tyne and Williams have broken away from Meunier a little bit. Oh, and Meunier ran wide. I saw him cutting the chicane there. So Meunier runs wide. He'll lose even more time in that and will probably have picked up a track cut warning in that one as well. So Robin Panzer has a chance now to get on terms with him as they go through the final corner and out onto the back straight, and over to the left hand side goes Tyne. Is he pitting? He is. So Tyne comes into the pits. It looks like we were very wrong with that one-stop strategy that I predicted. And into the pits as well behind him comes Loic Meunier. So after 18 laps of the race, pretty much all of the front runners have pitted, with the exception of the Adonis engineering cars of Williams and Panzer. Obviously Stevens, Martin, Schluter, Lahou, etc. have all stayed out as well. Moritz Kropp potentially has the net lead of the race, having pitted very, very early. The only difference, of course, is that by pitting early, he may well have older tyres, and Meunier's come out in a lot of traffic here behind Pollens, Fournier and Lalou, etc. And a yellow flag waving there as well. And it looks as if, I thought I saw someone else dropping down the order there on the timing screen. Anyway, the race continues. Loic Meunier, and wide in the background with Sergio Fletcher, who cuts the corner red.
Yeah, he's almost certainly going to be at risk from Thomas Vack, who's also pit and is on the same strategy as well. But Vack sensibly decides to back out of that one. So yeah, he's done 3 laps. Fletcher has done 1 lap, and Meunier, of course, is just pit. So yeah, there's all these drivers that started on the mediums are now turning into factors here. This hasn't worked out too badly for Grankvist, you know. 1.7 seconds behind Kropp, who's closing on Lahou, who's the highest of those that started on the mediums. This is what we just saw. Yeah, Chris Shepherd having a huge moment. Lucky he didn't spin the other way into the path of Meunier, but yeah, I think Chris actually did well not to lose his front wing there. But yeah, just a little tap from behind. Not really anything he could have done about that one, in my opinion.
Yeah, he's very lucky to still have his front wing. And Wopke Hoekstra's out of the race. So 6 cars out of the race already, I'm afraid to say. Williams into the pits along with Stevens and Martin. So Panzer stays out and takes the lead. Panzer leads from Schluter and Lahou. Here is Jan Grankvist on the back of Alessandro Maggio. Maggio has pitted, Grankvist has not. I think Maggio's probably just pulled a move on him, hasn't he? Unless I'm very much mistaken. So I think the net order should be Kropp, Maggio, then Frelick. Very interesting in these early stages of the race. Williams seemed to drop back a little bit. I think pitting earlier was the way to go. Looks like the undercut is going to be extremely effective today. And Moritz Kropp and the majority of the drivers who pitted all on medium tyres, with the exceptions being Williams and Martin, who are on soft tyres, so they will absolutely have to stop again. Everyone else on mediums probably will, but yes, a slight change in strategy there with Williams and Martin going for the softer compound of tyre. Surely that's going to stick them up behind the slower moving cars with the harder tyres ahead of them. Nope, never mind, it's updated itself. Williams is indeed on on medium tyres, as Jarl Tyne goes past Dylan Fisher there up into 8th position as it stands. I think Martin is still on soft tyres, so I think it was just an error for Matthew Williams's car that was showing up there, as Shimon Frelick goes past Jan Grankvist now.
Yeah, there's no point Grankvist destroying his race, fighting everyone here, because he's really fighting Dylan Fisher for what potentially could be maybe the last couple of points positions once these pit stops filter through. Lahou is actually coming into pits at the same time as Panzer and Schluter, who were both on the soft tyres as well. So that really shows you how much tyre saving that the Adonis and the Edge Esports drivers have been doing there as they now filter through. Moritz Kropp does indeed inherit the lead from Maggio, Frelick, Tyne, then Williams, and then Fisher. So it looks like Grankvist has decided to cut his losses here as well.
So for the first time today, Moritz Kropp leads the race, and he's built out the advantage to 3 seconds as a result of Maggio having to get through all of those slower cars. Obviously, all of those slower cars were on the same lap as him, so they weren't in a rush to get out of the way. And that's the risk you take pitting earlier. Sometimes you find yourself held up behind everyone who's yet to make that same pit stop.
Interesting to see no one really staying out to try to turn it into a one-stop race. Even Jan Grankvist pitted on that last lap around. But, I mean, it's still
It's going to be one stop
possible.
either way, isn't it, Caitlin?
Sorry?
It's going to be one stop either way, to be honest. Unless somebody really chews through their tyres.
Well, I don't know, because the likes of Moritz Kropp and Alessandro Maggio, they pitted so early. I'm expecting them to be on a two-stop at this point.
Well, there is that jeopardy. There's a potential for that to happen. And it is interesting that we're seeing Panzer, Martin, and Schluter all on the hards, especially Schluter, who's just come in the pits as well. As we see, there we go. Stevens picking off the yet-to-pit Dylan Fisher, who's in debt. Well, Fisher was behind Grankvist already, so it sort of made sense to stay out a lap longer, but he's surely coming down pit road. And there he goes, as Fournier now is lining up Jukka-Pekka Lalu, as you can see, Loic Moynier in the wheel tracks of the pair of them.
Fisher does pit, and it looks as if our tyres have now updated once again. So Carlos Martin, who was showing as being on the soft tyres earlier on, is now showing as being on the hards. Sometimes it does take a little while to update itself, but that is the information that we're getting now, that Panzer, Martin, Schluter and Grankvist are on the hard compound of tyre. Grankvist should be going to the end then. That will be one stop for Jan Grankvist. And he's made that strategy work in the past, and to be honest, coming from the back of the grid, I think an alternate strategy was always in the offering for Jan Grankvist, and it was always going to be taken. So anyway, 20 laps done out of the 50. Kropp leads from Maggio, Frelick, Tyen, Williams, Stevens, Fournier, Lalu, Mounier and Panzer, the top 10, all of whom have pitted. And I think every driver in the race has made a pit stop now at this point in time, with Dylan Fisher potentially being the last of those, unless I'm very much mistaken, Ed.
Yeah, I think that's probably the case. So yeah, you can see Moynier has lost out because both, let's see, Stevens, Fournier and Lalu have basically all three of them have undercut him in this phase. We also see Jarl Tyen has set the fastest lap of the race last time around in his pursuit of Simon Frelick. He's 3/10 behind him at the present moment, possibly even closer. And we see Jeffrey Fournier also set the fastest first sector of the race using the DRS as he was passing Lalu there. And now you surely got to think that Moynier, with the pace that he's got, he's not going to be waiting around for Lalu's tyres to go off. He is going to force the issue here, as we see Fletcher in the background also passing Robin Panzer for 10th position. There you can just see them behind Moynier there, the yellow car to the forefront. So yeah, Panzer now starting to lose. Now that Fletcher's got fresh tyres again, all of a sudden that qualifying pace is starting to come back to him, hasn't it? So even more pressure now on Moynier to get past this Super Venturi. But Lalu, of course, holding firm, which is great to see him take up that lead position so far in this race.
Yeah, so Jukka-Pekka Lalu, running in 8th position, has well and truly got himself involved in this, not necessarily the lead battle, but the battle for the higher end of the points, and he needed to do so today, with Jan Grankvist starting right from the back of the field. It's all up against him, and Super Venturi, of course, leading the team's championship, still need every point they can get with how competitive the teams behind them are. In terms of the team's championship, of course, we didn't run you through that as we were talking about the Drivers' Championship early on, but it is Super Venturi leading with 82 points from TOP Esports with their 72 points. TOP Esports yet to get a win in this series, as every win so far has been taken by either Jan Grankvist or Loic Mounier, who got his first win last time out. Adonis Engineering a third in the team's championship.
Tyen making a move.
By Spark and Road to Formula, and here is Jarl Tyen up the inside of Shimon Frelick, and he goes back into the top 3 now. Jarl Tyen does go through into the top 3. And we were talking about the team's championship. THR are only 6th, which is surprising, as they were pretty much the unanimously agreed favourites to win the championship before the season started, Ed.
Yeah, certainly. They had two quite difficult races, Suzuka especially being a definite low point when neither driver finished in the points, and only Stevens was able to get to the end in a quite low 17th or 16th, I think, by the flag. But at least he did keep going just in case something happened ahead. We also see Moynier has cleared Lalu now for 8th. So what I'm being told by Toby Davis in a DM he's just sent me is that Moynier wasn't just undercut, he actually had a slow stop, which is why he lost so much ground to Matthew Williams in the pit stops there, because they pit maybe a lap apart from each other. I think it wasn't a significant difference. Yeah, Williams has done 4 laps on his tyres, Moynier has done 5, so So yeah, it wasn't just being undercut. It was apparently he was either slow to request the pit stop. He looked like he went a little long in his box. I did notice that because we did see him make the pit stop. So I wonder if that might have had something to do with it. But yeah, either way, Moynier is now left with a little bit more ground to make up. But still, he's got the pace to clear Fournier, certainly, maybe Stevens as well. And it's just a case of how well Kropp's and Maggio's tyres hold up in this stint, because they've got a little bit of a gap to tie in now.
Maggio takes the lead. Sorry, Maggio has just taken the lead of the race as we're talking. He has got past Moritz Kropp. Now, I noticed his last lap was significantly faster than Kropp. It was over a second faster, over a second and a half looking at the times. So I think Moritz Kropp made a mistake there, and we're going to see a replay, presumably, of that mistake. Here we go out to the final corner. This is actually the move for the lead, with Maggio getting the wing open and slipstreaming his way right back through on Moritz Kropp. He goes back to the lead just as he led earlier on from that pole position that he so gratefully took. Of course, his second pole position on pace so far this year, only his first in terms of actually starting from pole. And Zeeuw, I think, has had a spin. We're going to see a replay. He goes off the curb, he twitches, he hits the wall, and then he spins the car. And oh, and he's flipped it. My goodness. Well, that's... Wow, that was gymnastic there at the end. And Zeeuw gets the award for the prettiest maneuver of the season so far, but unfortunately it has resulted in the end of his race. So 7 cars out of it, 23 remain. And Maggio now leads the race by half a second from Moritz Kropp. We didn't see what happened to Moritz, but he lost a lot of time on that last lap. And now Stevens is side by side with Matthew Williams. He goes through into 5th position, but Williams will get more of the slipstream from the TOP ahead of him. No, he does not, because Stevens goes through and now takes full advantage of Shimon Frelik's slipstream up ahead. He sets the fastest lap of the race as he goes, and that's the order into turn 1. Maggio, Kropp, Tyen, Frelik and Stevens, and then Matthew Williams in 6th position, trying to get back on terms and up the inside. That's a very brave manoeuvre that he has to bail out of. He gets over the curb. Williams tries to go around the outside of Tom Stevens, and that was never going to work in a month of Thursdays. So Maggio leads from Kropp, Tyen, Frelik, Stevens and Williams. Ed, what a frenetic sequence of events.
Yeah, there we go. I thought Williams was going to end up spinning offline there, but luckily he was very, very sensible there. But yeah, Stevens very assertively diving on Williams at the final corner, and then, as you say, using the DRS from Simon Frelik to sort of ensure that Williams wouldn't be able to dive back up the inside into turn 1. So smart racecraft there from Tom Stevens, being quick at not just at a moment, convenient moments, but at the right moment for his race there as well, to keep that track position. But yeah, I think you were right. Your instincts were right there, Caitlin. Moritz Kropp did make a mistake because he set a 32.9, whereas Maggio's in the mid-31s at the moment. And Stevens, of course, has just set a lap in the sort of high 30s as well. So that shows you he's almost a second quicker than Maggio at the moment. So everyone on wildly different strategies, despite the fact that this is a one-stop race. So we're only just at half distance now as well. I think Maggio and Moritz Kropp are definitely both coming in again, whereas the likes of Grankvist is certainly going to try and go to the end. We know Dylan Fisher might, well, he's on the soft, so he's certainly not going to the end. It is a difference between 2 and 3 stops now, I think, for most of this field then, the way this is playing out, as we see Fisher now all over the back of Chris Shepherd, of course, after that spin he had earlier. And nearly a little bit slower than Dylan Fisher expected. This should be a straightforward move for 19th position.
Yeah, I don't see anyone doing a 3-stop strategy in this race, but I think it's between the 1 and 2 stops. Grankvist should be going for a 1-stop at this point in time. So should Dylan Fisher, who we're watching now. But I think a lot of the other drivers will be going for 2 stops. There may be some drivers who looked like they were going for 2 stops, and then will decide to leave it out and leave it late, just as we've seen a couple of drivers doing at different times of the season. But yes, Yar Tyen now on the back of Moritz Kropp and Alessandro Maggio. It's 3 for the lead. And Tyen, of course, took the lead very briefly before he made his pit stop. I think he is still a very genuine challenger for the win today. Yar Tyen through the sweepers. Every one of these corners is blind. You turn in hoping and trusting that there's not going to be a car parked at a 90-degree angle ahead of you. Now through the final corner. This is the most important corner of the lap because you've got to be setting up your opponents through here, making sure that you don't drop off that DRS train down towards turn 1. They're so close now. What can Jarl Tyen do? What can Moritz Krop do? Tyen to the inside, Krop to the outside, and Jarl Tyen does go through into second position, and he makes the corner for good measure. So it's Maggio leading from Tyen and Krop, and now the THR driver sets about chasing down Alessandro Maggio. He will have the DRS. Ed, is there any holding him back at this point in time?
It's difficult to see. We certainly weren't expecting this after he pinned it on his first flying lap in qualifying. But yeah, he is starting to push now. And it's interesting that Maggio, when he got through, wasn't able to just escape up the road. We also saw at the same time, it seems Tyen and Stevens are synchronizing their moves, because immediately as Tyen made that move, Stevens passed Frelick for 4th as well. So yeah, both THRs getting closer and closer to a double podium, as they did at this event last season, as well as we see Maggio getting very, very close to the wall on the exit there of turn 13 then. So yeah, Maggio knows he's under pressure here if he wants to hold on to this win. And is it now time to think tactically about extending this stint, because keeping track position from Tyen is going to be tricky? Maybe Maggio is more in a race with Krop than Jarl Tyen immediately behind him.
Okay, and here is Jarl Tyen setting up Alessandro Maggio. He could have gone for the move into the final corner, but he knows he would be swamped on the straight. So he's holding back, and he'll get it now, I think. He'll get it now. He'll get the DRS open as they go across the line, and they will be side by side for the lead of the race. Tyen will have the overspeed, and he goes through into the lead. And in the background, Tom Stevens goes through into 3rd position, passing Moritz Krop. What a sequence of events there for THR, who are now up into 1st and 3rd in this Grand Prix. And Jarl Tyen, who's had a terrible start to the season, who crashed in Australia, who crashed in Suzuka, is now leading at Saudi Arabia with that 30 place grid penalty hanging over his head that he is racing under appeal from. He knows that now might be his best chance of a result in the next couple of races, and so he's got to take it with both hands. Jarl Tyen leads, and now Matthew Williams is on the back of Moritz Krop, trying to set him up for 4th place, Ed.
Yeah, Krop is sinking like a stone here. Last lap 133.3, and he's on tyres that are 6 lap older than Stevens and Williams as well. So he is really starting to feel the pain of that at the end of this stint. But of course, we have got 22 more laps to go, haven't we? So it's almost a case of going through the pain here, because he needs to sort of extend this so he can put the mediums on. Oh, round goes Krop!
Krop goes off the road. He hits the barriers. Has he kept his wings?
He's lost it, surely.
He's lost it. Okay, Krop will have to come into the pits. He'll have to... I mean, what he should do, I think, is put on mediums and go to the end of the race from here. But what a shame there for Moritz Krop. I can also report that Pascal Pollens is out of the race. That's why the graphic on the screen said that there were yellow flags in the 1st sector, despite Krop's accident happening in the 3rd sector. And Stevens goes through to 2nd. It is a THR 1-2 as we talk. But Ed, what a shame for Moritz Krop after such a good start to the race.
Yeah, I think that was the problem, that because he pit so early in the first stint, he was the first to pull the trigger. It put him in that sort of position where the rears were just going to be really, really sliding and vulnerable in this final stint if he wasn't careful. And it was just that tricky 22, 23, 24 chicane, wasn't it? Let's ride on board then as he goes through. All seems okay so far, and then just over the curb, there's that instability. He gets on the throttle and quite heavily into the wall as well. I wonder if the steering and suspension are okay. It looks mostly straight in terms of the steering, but that he's going to be feeling the pain of that all the way to the pits. Luckily, he did make it. Let's see where he's come out in 21st position then. Just behind Chris Shepard is there. That was what happened to Pascal Pollens. Exactly the same fate as poor Sven Schubert, wasn't it?
Yeah, that'll be on the curb. There's a massive curb there. I saw someone in the chat earlier after Schubert's crash saying, well, the curb finally got someone, because everybody knows that's the accident black spot of the track. That's the one that caught out David Feidock in the Super Lights race. By the way, David Feidock's still running and inside the points as we speak. Sergio Fletcher is challenging David's teammate Jeffrey for 9th position in this race as we speak, and up towards the final turn. But yeah, THR are now 1st and 2nd in this race. This is where we expected they'd be at the start of the championship. I remember Carlos Martin saying he thought they'd win 10 or 11 races this year, and I said, don't be silly, GPWC is more unpredictable than that, or less predictable than that, I should say. And I've been proven right so far. but they're doing very, very well today. In the background, Alex Laho passed Carlos Martin right as we're talking about him, going up into 11th place, and Tomasz Vuk has demoted Mark Schluter. They're still side by side as we look at them, and he does go through into 13th position, does Tomasz Vuk, and just behind them is David Fidok, who we were also just talking about. So 30 laps into this race now. Tyen still leads from Stevens, Maggio, Williams, Frelick, Munier, Fournier, Fletcher, Lalu and Panzer. Good race from Jukka Lalu so far, who always finishes in the points, or usually finishes in the points, but sometimes struggles for top 10s. And after finishing outside of the top 10 last time out, he is 9th position as it stands. David Fidok, right, left. A lot of drivers, well, my problem with this circuit is that a lot of the different corners look very similar to each other, and sometimes if you're not concentrating, you can treat one part of the course like another part of the course and basically just forget where you are. And he's just been through a section that looks very similar to another section near the start of the lap. Here comes Mark Schluter, going to the outside of Tomasz Vuk, and this is the final corner, so he'll have a bad run down the straight. This could be a chance for David Fidok mainly, but Schluter gathers it up with the slipstream, goes to the outside of Vuk, and he'll try again now, down towards turn 1, and he does go through. Vuk takes a look, tries to come back at him. Mark Schluter, I kept telling this story last season where he was so downhearted after the first couple of races of the year that he messaged me saying, I don't really know if I should continue in this league. And then when he did decide to continue, he started winning races and ended up being 3rd in the championship. Well, the exact same thing has happened this year. He messaged me after the last race saying, I don't really know if I should continue. This is even worse than last year. And I said to him, well, you know what happened when you said that last year, don't you? Never give up, especially around the streets of Jeddah. But anyway, back to the action, Ed. We're watching David Fidok on the tail of Tomasz Vuk, and what a delight it is to see David Fidok back in GPVWC Super League. This is the league where he belongs, I would say.
Yeah, him and Vac, it looks like Fidok's got 2 lap pressure tyres. Schluter's one of the ones who stayed out longest, so he's only been on them 11 laps here. So Fidok, in theory, has got the advantage. You see Williams now picks off Maggio. You saw what happened to Moritz Kropp. I think Maggio is just trying to survive in this stint as the rears squabble, complain every lap. He's just putting them through pain on this Jeddah Cornish circuit there as we see...
And Stevens is right up with Tyen, sorry. I thought he was going for a move. I saw the gap shrinking, so I'm sorry for interrupting. It may well be that the THRs are working together now to get away from the pack.
Yeah, we also see there's a huge fight behind Simon Frelick. Moynier has caught him. Jeffrey Fournier is there as well, and so too is Sergio Fletcher. So there's this crazy fight for 5th position, and Moynier trying to recover from all that time he lost in the pit lane. You see that sort of 2.5 seconds. That's really the difference between potentially fighting for the podium and fighting for 5th like he is now. So yeah, Frelick is sort of the cork in the bottle here as far as Moynier is concerned. So it's so crucial for him to keep the leaders in sight and get past him on Frelick as soon as possible. We've seen him do it before, but it's quite another thing to be able to do that on a circuit like this where Frelick, I think, has clearly trimmed the rear wing out for some, because he seems to be quite quick down that start-finish straight. But yeah, now THR have got control of the race, 2.7 seconds out of Matthew Williams. I wonder if there's a temptation with Stevens being ahead in the Drivers' Championship to swap them around and issue team orders here. It would be a shame, it must be said. It would be great to see Tyen and Stevens just go for it. And of course, there is still that threat from Williams behind if they start slipping up here. Williams was actually a little bit quicker than Tyen on that previous lap as well.
Yeah, also quicker, Robin Panzer, who has passed Jukka Lalu and gone through into 9th position, and into the pits comes Shimon Frelick. Now, I knew there would be a secondary pit window, and you can absolutely take the tyres to the end of the race from now. So Frelick and Fletcher coming in. I think they've learnt from the first into the race. They've learnt how effective the undercut is, and they've decided to pit earlier, so they're on fresher tyres when the battle does come. But anyway, out of the pits they go. Oh, and that was
Lalu.
Frelick. Yeah, Frelick had to stop there for Lalu coming into the pits. He's had a slow exit. He'll lose a good half a second to a second in that one. And we heard about Munier having a slow stop earlier on. What that could be is potentially waiting for someone else in the pits. He could potentially have had to reverse after missing his box. Maybe he requested the pit stop too late and his virtual team weren't quite ready for him. We'll see it on board with Szymon Frelick now as he exits the pits and Lalu comes in just ahead, and there was contact actually, so hopefully Frelick isn't exiting the pits with a damaged car. But I tell you what, looking at his steering there, I think his steering was hanging a little to the left. Now I don't know if that was from the collision we just saw or whether he's had a hit at the wall earlier on, but I don't think Szymon Frelick has perfectly straight steering here, Ed.
Yeah, I've also thought on the exit there that Fletcher tapped the wall as he was following Szymon Frelick too, coming on through the first sector there. But yeah, they're all just taking crazy risks, and yeah, luckily we didn't see what we saw in FS1, where I think it was a big snap for Frelick. So clearly first lap out of the pits, the tyre's not up to temperature. Next car up the road is of course Jan Grankvist, who got a massive undercut. As we see Maggio finally pit from what was 4th position on the road there. So as we see Frelick just basically trying not to hit the back of Grankvist because the closing speed on the fresh tyres is so much here. Surely Jan is not going to fight this one too much. Frelick is going to breeze by with the DRS then. And where are these two going to come out relative to Maggio? This is crucial.
And look at Fletcher, they're side by side. Frelick going around Jan Grankvist, the championship leader, who is presumably on a one-stop strategy. Frelick does go through, and Fletcher is going to be held up in all of this. Of course, he pitted a lap before, and through the sweep as they go. Maggio's come out ahead.
Fisher. Yeah, Fisher has actually
come
jumped
ahead of Frelick. He's racing with Dylan Fisher as we talk.
I was just going to say, Dylan Fisher actually switching to softs means that he's actually overtaking Grankvist. But of course, he's probably got to make another pit stop much sooner than Jan does, who is definitely going to try and one-stop it and go to the end. But he's 25.9 seconds behind Tyan, is Jan. So in terms of fighting for the win, Super Venturi, no, that's not really on the cards at the moment. But yeah, crucially, Maggio got a huge gap to his teammate and to Szymon Frelick then. So yeah, Maggio, he's just getting a little bit held up here by Dylan Fisher, who I think he thought would move out of the way there.
Yeah, that was like Oscar Piastri in the Grand Prix having to go right around the outside and getting into the marbles. As for Dylan Fisher, it's interesting that he is on those soft tyres because I thought he would go to the end from when he made his stop. But yeah, you're absolutely right. I hadn't noticed he was on soft tyres. He will probably have to stop again. Out of the final corner for this lap, Jeffrey Fournier is in the pits now. And so is Dylan Fisher. So Fisher does come in. And Tomasz Vok in the purple Road to Formula car is also in the pit lane. Alessandro Maggio back up into the top 10 now. And, well, it's been no secret since the start of the year that Maggio struggles on his tyres a little bit. And that's why I don't think anyone's really surprised that he's gone for a 2-stop in this one. That may well be the strategy to go for, though, so it doesn't really matter so much here as it would at another racetrack. He's just got to make sure that he uses those tyres to his advantage while he has them.
He's certainly doing that. Purple first sector of the race, 32.9. So yeah,
very good.
Both THRs will know Maggio's creeping into the pit window here. So ideally, they want to come out ahead just so they don't have to give themselves the extra headache having to get back past him. But Maggio's so quick that he may not give them that luxury here. So yeah, you can tell Tyne and Stevens just trying to work together so that Stevens gets DRS, gets a bit of slipstream so that he's not losing any time down the straights to any of their rivals. No danger of Matthew Williams catching up to the rear of them and getting into DRS himself as well.
And into the pits comes Jarl Tyen from 2nd position, so or from the lead he was. So the first of our THRs to make that 2nd pit stop. That was an ideal situation for THR there, running out together at the front with clean air, because you can use that tandem drafting, almost like NASCAR from the early 2010s, to one of them pushes, the other one pulls, they get away quicker than they otherwise would. Loic Munier and David Feidock also pitting on that lap. And Munier gets out a couple of places behind Szymon Frelick and behind the Valley Esports cars. Maggio ahead of Fletcher as it stands. He's in a really good position at this point in the race. Jeffrey Fournier there, P11 on the back of Frelick, just ahead of Munier, who exited the pits after that last lap. I have to say, I'm not sure this has really worked out for Jan Grankvist either. I think he would have been hoping to be much higher up the order going into the final
pit window, because unfortunately it's hard to see him climbing the order any more than this, really, since he won't be making another pit stop and therefore won't be getting any fresh tyres.
Yeah, there's that danger that Fisher on that different strategy might be coasting up to the back of him in the closing stages on another set of softs. Interestingly, Tyan has gone for softs for this final 14-lap stint, effectively. So that is interesting, because what was he doing? He did 17 laps in the first stint. So yeah, it depends how hard you push them, of course, as we see Stevens is coming in. So where's him and Williams going to come out relative to Maggio? That's the big question here. I think Stevens has probably done just enough to come out in between his teammate and Alessandro Maggio in the Valet. But yeah, Williams, I think, will be much closer.
So Pansar leads, but where are Stevens and Williams? And side by side go Fournier with Shimon Frelick there. Fournier getting through up into turn 1, and that is for position. And there is Tom Stevens, and he is behind Jarl Tyan. They got Mark Schluter between them, but he's yet to make that second pit stop. So Tyan is probably in the net lead. Tom Stevens, I think, was also on soft tyres from what I saw just then. So now this begs the question of, and there you go, soft tyres. Tyan is not showing up as being on soft tyres, but sometimes it does take a little while to update, and there we go, he is on soft tyres. But yeah, as I was saying, now that begs the question of, if the THRs find themselves up in front by themselves after this pit window, just as they were before it, what will they do in terms of team orders? Will they hold position? Will they swap? Or will they fight? I don't really see why they would swap position. But will they fight, or will they hold position in first and second? Tom Stevens struggling to get past Schluter, so this might not really be a question that needs to be asked, because this will allow Tyan to get away. He now goes up the inside. He should get through there, but he's lost a good second or so to his teammate Jarl Tyan up ahead.
And the interesting question is, because obviously Panzer, Martin, Tyan, and Schluter are all on the hards. So they've done about 17, 18 laps or so far. Can they keep doing that? As Tyan now is going to go up the inside of Alex Laho. Will Laho defend this one? Yes, he does. And that's potentially going to back Tyan into Tom Stevens if he's not careful, but he gets a better traction on exit and now splits the pair of them up the inside. He goes past Alex Laho, and now it's Carlos Martin next up the road, as Tyan has set the fastest lap of the race, unsurprisingly then, on those fresh soft tyres there. So yeah, Alex Laho tried to make a bit of a fight of it, but on the hards, he was a sitting duck there.
Yeah, it looked like Fournier and Fletcher swapped places a couple of times again, and also Moritz Kropp is back up into the points, so well done.
And Williams
Moritz
did get out ahead of Maggio. I should have pointed that out.
He did indeed. Very good, very good. So Matthew Williams in 7th position in this race should be up into provisional podium contention by the end of it. We've got 12 laps to go, and now the question, of course, becomes which of the drivers up in front are actually due a pit stop and which are trying to stay out till the end. Tom Stevens around the outside. That'll turn into the inside now on Alex Laho, and he does go through an important, decisive manoeuvre there from Tom Stevens to put him just 1 second behind his teammate, who himself is struggling to get past Carlos Martin.
Yeah, Martin doing a great job for Pansar here, isn't he? Yes, look at that, Laho trying to use that straight line speed to get back around the outside of Tom Stevens. I think that was a non-starter. And don't forget, we've still got Williams and Maggio that are going to chew their way through these guys as well. Yeah, Laho's had enough. And through finally goes Tyan round the outside using the DRS on Carlos Martin. And now it's Stevens that's going to pick him up in a few seconds' time, surely, as well, if he can help it.
Now, if there's two drivers we do know are good on their tyres, it's Pansar and Martin, so I would not be surprised if they do stay out right till the end of the race. That would explain the hard tyre compound that Martin at least has gone on to. I think Pansar is also on the hards, if I remember correctly. Laho is actually outside of the points now, but of course we'll have those fresh tyres, and he's already got back past Fisher on pit exit. And look at Carlos Martin under pressure from Tom Stevens here. Stevens up the inside, goes through into that fast left-hander, that banked corner, and Tom Stevens is now back up into the podium positions as Matthew Williams looks set to follow them through.
Yeah, I think these hard tyre runners were basically just rolling the dice, weren't they? And you saw Leho knew this isn't going to work because he knew the hard tyres didn't work in Suzuka, did they? As we see Matthew Williams slotting himself up the inside there. These corners that are not really corners because they're flat out, because they're so sort of almost, if you leave the door open, you've got older tyres, you're going to see someone on fresh tyres just nip up the inside, especially if they can get DRS like Williams has. But Matthew Williams has actually kept Tom Stevens very much in sight here, so great work by the Adonis driver. Matthew Williams isn't completely out of victory contention yet, so I think that might be the real reason they've left Panzer out, to back the THRs into Matthew Williams.
Indeed, Matthew Williams does have a good chance now, and he goes side by side with Tom Stevens, and around the outside, a really good move. He nearly overshoots the corner, but that'll get him the inside, and Stevens drives right back around the outside of Matthew. This is great stuff there. Tom Stevens has the inside now. Matthew will have the curb, and they're still side by side in a section of the track you really should not be neck and neck through, and Tom Stevens is able to hold off Matthew Williams. A great sequence of corners there, and that was champions driving from Tom Stevens to fend off the charging Adonis engineering car. It's Adonis versus THR at the front, with Adonis leading, followed by THR, and Adonis once again. A real change from the start of the race when it was the Valet Esports drivers up there with Matthew Williams. It's all kind of swapped ends since then. Meanwhile, Yartine is very close to the back of Robin Panzer on this lap. I think this is the one where he will take the lead. He doesn't do it into the left-hander. He knows it would have been too late of a move, and he knows that he will have more opportunities. This should be a relatively easy move considering the tyre advantage that Yartine has. He's all over the back of the Adonis car, nearly pushing it towards the corner. He does not want to go through there. He knows it would be a disadvantage, and now he will open the DRS and he will go through into turn one. I am sure of it. DRS wide open, and Yartine for the third time today will take the lead of the Grand Prix with 9 laps remaining, and I think that this should be pretty straightforward from here. Matthew Williams charging, and once again goes side by side with Tom Stevens, once again has the inside line for turn 2, and once again is fended off by the charging THR driver, who keeps it in third position into the sweepers. Really good stuff here between the THRs and the Adonis cars for first, second, third and fourth position, Ed.
Yeah, that was absolutely critical defense from Tom Stevens there, because the plan was working. Panzer was actually backing Tyne into both Stevens and Williams there, and Williams, he just went on that first attempt that little bit too deep into that first chicane, didn't he? And that really allowed Tyne to just take the lead and now start to pull away. Look, purple first sector for Jarl Tyne. Oh, and almost 2 seconds quicker.
He ran wide.
Oh, let's hope that the Adonis isn't too badly damaged. But now Alessandro Maggio can see there's a small chance that he can get that Valet back onto the podium here. But of course, both the Adonis, especially Panzer, he's got to stay out now because 9 laps to go. If he pits now, he's dropping out the points. So he's got to make this strategy work. And he's still got a 2-second gap to Stevens here. It's not out of the question that Panzer can get his Adonis onto the podium. One of the Adonis is going to finish on the podium. It's just a question of which one, I think.
Yeah, Williams definitely touched the wall. Now,
well, did I say 2 seconds? He's 2 seconds behind.
Stevens. Here we go. Stevens slipstreaming his way past Panzer, and once again, THRs are first and second in the race with 8 laps to go. Side by side in the background, this is Fournier and Schluter and Martin, and they're all in a chain. And up the inside goes Fournier, and he pushes Mark Schluter wide. Luckily, they keep it out of the barriers. Sergio Fletcher getting involved now. Loic Mounier is the pink Spark racing car on the tail of this snake. So we're watching them as Martin, Fournier, Schluter, Fletcher and Mounier. And wide goes Fletcher. Gathers it up, avoids the curb. Mounier gets a better run. There's that long banked left-hander coming up now. Not normally an overtaking opportunity, but it can sometimes set you up for one. And I think that should be pretty stable for the rest of the lap. At least until they get to the start-finish straight. But they all entered turn 1 pretty much as a group. Meanwhile, I'm afraid to say it's not a good day for Red Archer, because Chris Shepherd is 21st and Riot Kilk appears to be out of the race now. So 9 DNFs with 21 cars remaining.
Yeah, it looks like Panzer has let Williams through as well into third, which only really makes sense then, especially with Maggio nipping at Williams' heels as well. That was a good strategic ploy from Adonis. So it was worth keeping Panzer out, but the gamble, it's not quite worked out now. As look up the inside, Fletcher bangs wheels with Mark Schluter there, and Schluter very much getting forced out. Moynier takes advantage. He's going to try and make a double move here with the DRS wide open.
Mounier saying thank you very much and going past both of them to the inside. Lovely little Easter present there. That'll make his chocolate eggs taste sweeter. And a little bit late, yeah. Through the first couple of corners, he does have 8th position now. It was looking so much better than this earlier on from Loic Mounier. He will still gain on Grangfist in the championship, but I think at this point that Matthew Williams will take second in the championship, won't he? Now here is Robin Panzer making way for Williams. You can't help but think that one of the reasons Adonis elected to keep Panzer out there was to hold up the THR drivers and allow Williams to get a little bit closer. Hasn't quite worked the way they would have wanted, but it was worth the gamble. Here's Vincent Gutt now, running in 20th position. Hopefully we haven't had yet another retirement in this race, but whenever we see a replay of someone further down the order, you have to wonder why it is. And with Gutt, it was just a harmless run through the escape road by the look of it. Rejoins the road and continues on with his own race. It looks like he was running off a little bit more there as well, so hopefully not picking up a penalty. And Maggio is 4th. You're absolutely right. Maggio is back through into 4th position now in the Valley Esports car, and it looks as if Mounier has just passed Martin for P8, P7.
Oh, that looked very close to the wall in the exit of 27 from Maggio there. We see Alex Lahose setting a purple first sector as he tries to chase down Grankvist for 13th. Panzer still within DRS of Maggio, but not able to really take advantage there. Maggio still on for his best finish in his Super League career so far, with 4th, but he'll be disappointed with the podium just out of reach. As we see Fournier and I think Martin having issues. Did Martin drop down the order there? Back.
There was a yellow flag and Martin's dropping back, and there was definitely a swappage of positions around this group. And I think Martin might be out of the race because there's another yellow flag. Something is going terribly wrong now with Carlos Martin, who does DNF. What a shame for the TOP esports driver. We're going to see a replay. Well, he's already off the road at this point. He's run wide at turn 1, rejoins, and things clearly aren't a-okay.
That looks exactly like what happened to Heiko Poom.
It does. Well, we're going to see a replay of it from the start now. He's being attacked by, is that Fletcher maybe? He goes down the inside, and is that a complete brake failure? He just did not make it into turn 1. I think he still had some braking performance on it, but something went drastically wrong there. And it was nothing to do. It was nothing to do with the Valley Esports car he was racing with. Yeah, you see the brake, like the brake pressure is definitely being registered. And yet something has gone drastically wrong to put Carlos Martin out of the race.
Yeah, that's a huge shame. He was on in that amazing battle, wasn't he? He was on for a top 6 or top 7 potentially. And now TOP, who was second in that team's championship, they're not going to be able to capitalize on a tough day for Super Venturi. And here comes Simon Frelich now trying to pick off Mark Schluter into the first corner. He's almost alongside, and he spins himself around. It's a full 360 for Simon Frelich there. He's still 10th, so no, not too much harm done there, but that was a little bit of a 50-50 move there, and I think Simon maybe should have backed out for better opportunities. We see, I think Thomas Vacker's hit trouble as well, dropping to 17th there.
Yeah, well, something happened with Krop, because Krop seemed to lose a couple of places and then gain them back, and I think it must have involved Tomasz Vok, and he's rubbing his way along the wall, and that's a steering failure. I think, judging by how Tomasz Vok was steering hard left, I think he's had a hardware issue there. We're going to see a replay of it. So Vok here is fighting with
Moritz Krop.
He's slipstreaming him into turn 1. He dives, and makes contact with David Fidok, who spins around. Fidok resumes. Tomasz Vok resumes.
It's
and
already
then as he gets going, something's very wrong on the car. Now that's not a hardware issue, as I previously suggested. That looked like a broken suspension. So Tomasz Vok retiring as a result of the collision, not as a result of anything hardware related. So 19 cars remaining. I'm afraid to say Fidok has now dropped to the back as a result of that. I think he's probably been into the pits, hasn't he? So,
Oh! Round the outside from Leho.
Wow.
Sorry, Caitlin, but he gets past Jan Grankvist. So Leho, who switched to the soft tires a couple of laps ago, is now duking it out with the Super Venturis there. Grankvist was trying to defend Lalu. He's going to continue to try and do so, diving really late into the first corner. Leho goes wide, and I think Grankvist suckered him into that one as Leho just avoids contact as he has to cut the chicane there. But that was bold, but foolish, I think, ultimately, from Alex Leho there. But fair play for giving it a go, and now he's the sole road to Formula. He needs to get as many points as he can, and Grankvist is going to pull out all the stops in these last 4 laps to prevent that from happening, as we see Panzer desperately trying to keep the gap to Jeffrey Fournier. So Robin Panzer still on for P5 here.
now, someone who wishes to remain anonymous has pointed out to me that towards the end of the race, some of these drivers might be struggling with brake wear. Obviously, Tomasz Vok outbraked himself into turn 1. Carlos Martin also outbraked himself into turn 1, and both retired as a result of that. And there's another yellow flag out there. That's seeming rather ominous at this point in the race. But yeah, it could just be. And it's David Fidok with damage. David Fidok on his return to Super League has damaged the car. He's crabbing his way back to the pits. Could that be a remnant? I saw he was losing a lot of time on the way back. I think this is a remnant of the Tomasz Vok incident. I think he's just yet to make it back to the
another
pits.
crash, because it didn't look as bent in terms of the steering suspension damage from the first incident as Thomas Vac, and then I think he's had another hit with the wall while trying to recover quickly.
Ah, well, here we go. He's racing with Dylan. Oh, hi, Dylan Fisher. He's racing
Must be
with
Fisher.
Nicky Hiraka.
And this
And
is
that's
Vac
where-
hitting him.
Yeah, so that's where Wack hits him, and I think he's probably got suspension damage from that, where he's been struggling to get. Yeah, look at that. He's heavily damaged, and he's been struggling to get back to the pits ever since. And that's why he's been losing so much time. That's why I said I thought he'd made a pit stop, because he was just losing that much time. And he's still trying to soldier his way on. He's still going, look, still trying to make it back to the pits. Now, hopefully everybody who's coming through sees him, because there's nothing scarier than suddenly coming across a slow-moving car on the track at a circuit with so many blind corners. But I think he should make it back okay. The Altayan continuing to lead now by 3 seconds over his teammate Tom Stevens. This has been a perfect day for THR, who didn't qualify well, but have raced better. It's like a complete reversal of last season, where they qualified on the front row of the grid and then were beaten by Jan Grankvist in the race. And I was speculating that they'd set their cars up for qualifying performance rather than race performance. But it seems to be the complete opposite of that this year, where Tyan and Stevens were rather anonymous in qualifying and have just got it right for the race. Now look at Loic Mounier as he challenges Jeffrey Fournier with the slipstream and the DRS, and potentially some push to pass if he's kept any. Of course, they have a certain amount of push to pass they can use over a race, and we can never tell when they're using it, rather annoyingly. But Mounier has got through into 6th position ahead of Jeffrey Fournier, and David Fidok has made it back to the pits now. Here's Alex Leho just ahead of Jan Grankvist and just behind Jukka-Pekka Lalu in a little bit of a sandwich between the two Super Venturi cars.
Look how much Jan is struggling, Caitlin. 132.3 that last lap was Leho, 130.9. He's absolutely flying out there, as expected. And Dylan Fisher in the low 31s as well on his soft tyres is within about a second and a half. So a real challenge for Jan Grankvist just to stay in the top 13. He's done heroically well, it must be said, from the back of the grid to try and make the strategy work, as David Fidok finally makes it to the pit lane entry. But surely this is going to be a golden opportunity for Dylan Fisher to get, I think he's only had a handful of points so far this season. Dylan Fisher would be very, very grateful, I think, to get into the top 13 here, because how many points? Yeah, that would match his finish in Istanbul as well. So yeah, with the season that AK here are having, they need every point they can get, especially with Hygo retiring very, very early on then. Only 18 car drivers left in this race then. Oh, big crash, and that's Grankvist out! He's done exactly what Mark Kropp did, and this time he's lost the rear wing.
The championship leader has smacked the barriers and lost the rear wing. I was going to say earlier, Krop was lucky not to do the same. Krop's coming through now, actually, and is saying, oh, I know that feeling. But anyway, hopefully Grankvist keeps it under control, because it's very difficult to drive one of these cars with no rear wing, and he's going to spin it into the last corner. I don't know if he knew he didn't have a rear wing or not, but what a shame for Grankvist, and surely he's not going to score any points now, and he's out. He is out of the race. What a disaster for the Finnish driver, who was always going to be up against it today. And now we're going to see a replay of that. A completely unexpected mistake out of the blue. He's on old tyres, making it very difficult to drive. And at this point, he's already lost his rear wing. So that's why the spin happens. Yeah. We need to go back a little bit further to see how the initial accident takes place. Here we go into the chicane. Goes through the left, okay, gets on the curb. Whoa, and round the car goes. He just bottomed out and smacked the barriers. And his heart would have sunk, Ed.
Yeah, it's very, very similar to Moritz Krop there, but 28 laps on the hard tyre. Grankvist held on for as long as he could, but unfortunately, the chance of just taking a few points has gone out of his hands there. So it was always going to be a bit tough. Luckily, Jan has only lost a couple of points rather than a much stronger finish there, but that's still going to hurt as we are about to see Yartine start the final lap of the race. Panzer has rallied a bit here on his hard tyres and start to close back it up on Maggio within about half a second. So Maggio's got to really hold on to this fourth place. Loic Moynier is still lapping very, very quickly, catching up to the back of them, but I think Loic's going to run out of laps to try and get into the top 5 here.
Indeed. So, Robin Panzer, P5, on the back of Alessandro Maggio, quite late in his stint. He's been out for a little while, as have a lot of these drivers at this point in time. And we've seen how difficult it is to drive these cars on older tyres. You can see how good of a race the THR drivers have had, actually. Up 5 and 7 positions from their grid slots, respectively. Tyan started in 6th position, and Stevens all the way up, of course, from 9th place. The biggest winner in terms of places gained has been Dylan Fisher, right from 29th on the grid, and it just raises the question of what he could have done without that crashing in qualifying. And to be honest, I think he would have been in the top 5 with this race being as crazy as it has been. Only 18 cars look set to finish this one. Did we? Yeah, of course we saw what happened to Tomasz Vok. I was about to ask a very silly question. We've literally just been talking about it.
We've seen it twice. I don't think he wants to see it again, Caitlin.
Yeah, absolutely true. Meanwhile, what a fantastic day for THR. Only 6th in the team's championship after the first couple of rounds, but they have been exemplary. They have played the game perfectly, and Yartine from 6th on the grid has won in Saudi Arabia. Tom Stevens from 9th on the grid is 2nd. Matthew Williams is 3rd. He will take 2nd in the championship, I think, unless I'm very much mistaken. In the background, it's going to be close between Maggio and Panzer, but I think Maggio held him off. He did. Maggio 4th, Panzer 5th, then Mounier, Fournier, Fletcher, Schluter and Frelick. They will be the top 10, and then outside of the top 10, Lahu holds off Lalu, then it's Fisher, Krop. Good on Krop for not giving up after that mistake. Stein Hangraf is P15, and then outside of the points we're watching Chris Shepherd and Vincent Gutt, and David Fidok will finish a couple of laps down after his own incident and trip through the pit lane. But yeah, what a day for THR there. 1st and 2nd. The first 1-2 for any team in the 2025 season. And that will launch them right up in both the teams and drivers' championships. Can Gutt get 16th on the line? Not quite, but I don't think it'll matter anyway. Because unless there are 2 drivers with hefty time penalties, that won't be worth any points. Whoa, look at this massive chain of cars. Going in 3x3 up to the mid part of the track. Clearly a very excited THR team.
Like 60s Formula 1 grid there.
And there's the order. Tyan wins from Stevens, Williams, Maggio, Panzer, Mounier, Fournier, Fletcher and Schluter. I'm actually going to say Schluter is my driver of the day there, because Edge have been having such a tough season so far. Schluter was on the verge of giving up, but yet again didn't, and that's their best result of the season so far. Tim and Frelick, P10, didn't give up despite that spin we saw a couple of laps ago. Alex Laho, P11, then Jakob Ekalali, P12, Dylan Fisher, 13th, Moritz Krop, P14, Stein Handgraf, P15. And then missing out on points were Shepherd, Gutt, Grankvist and Fidok. They will all be classified. Tomasz Vok unfortunately retired, as did pretty much everyone, well, absolutely everyone that you're about to see. Martin, Kilk, Pollens, Hughes, Hoekstra, Schubert, Winnick, Royal, Poom and Singel. Entire teams wiped out by accidents and incidents today. It was a punishing day of racing, just as we had at Suzuka last time out. But that's Jeddah for you, and I'm sure the drivers will be looking forward to going to a slightly more conventional racetrack next time out with the Circuit de Catalunya in Barcelona. And that will be the Spanish Grand Prix in just 2 weeks' time. But what a race we've had here today, Ed. Do you have a driver of the day for that one?
Ooh, tough to say. I think I would give it to Maggio personally, because I thought after he got disconnected from Istanbul and we never quite saw what he would have been able to do in that race, as an errant wheel in the middle of the track there. I'm not going to question that because it will just lead to more questions. But there we go. It's possibly Maggio's, ironically enough. But anyway, I thought going from pole position, he didn't do anything too silly. He had to pit early, knew he didn't quite have the tyre preservation, still held off Panzer at the end, and sort of split the Adonises as, oh dear. Well, that's not the most dignified ending to a race, but nonetheless, they still get the points. Yeah, he seems to be a very, very keen, Valet, to undo all the goodwill that I'm trying to build for them. But yeah, I thought Maggio did a really, really solid job today. I think the THR is obviously the standouts. Matthew Williams doing a very solid job too. Moynier recovering from that slow first pit stop. Schluter, as you say, good underdog performance on the edge on the one stop. And I think honourable mention once again to Stein Hangraf getting another point for Green Stripes as well. I think that's crucial for him just to survive some of these chaotic races. So I think of all those that I've mentioned, Maggio would be my personal driver of the day.
Fair enough. Well, talking of Maggio, I've noticed he is the first driver to jump into the interview room. So, as I always said, I will hand you the reins for the interview since you seem to enjoy doing these. And, well, first of all, I'm going to say congrats on your points, Alessandro. But yes, Ed, you can take the reins from here. And hopefully we should have some of our winners and podium finishers in very shortly.
So there we go. Let's introduce then now finally he got to start from pole position after setting the fastest time in qualifying on this occasion then, and ended up finishing P4 at Jeddah. So Alessandro, that was a very, very tough race to make your strategy work, because you were one of the first, you hit I think a lap or two after Moritz Kropp, wasn't it, in the end? And we saw Moritz actually lost the rear end of his car trying to extend the middle stint and crashed out. But you were able to keep it on the island. There was, obviously, I know you'll be a little bit disappointed not to finish on the podium, but considering that Panzer was coming back at you at the end, given that the hard tyres were coming back into their own, you've got to feel happy with your performance today.
Yes. Honestly, I'm surprised I finished as I did, because usually when I take pole position, things don't go well. So, if anything, I'm happy that I finished, and most importantly, I finished very high up. So yeah, I'm very happy with the progress. The car is trying to come back to me after Australia. Finally feeling a bit, let's say, better with the balance. The previous 2 rounds weren't exactly, let's say, I don't know, on point. And I was struggling a lot with keeping the car in a, let's say, viable window. So now it should be, hopefully, all downhill. It should be a bit easier to get points now.
Usually downhill describes not the speed of your trajectory, but the sort of everything going wrong. So interesting phrase there, but it's okay. English isn't your first language, so it's all good. But
I mean, in Italian, we do use that kind of expression to,
that's true.
Yeah.
It was a bit of a roller coaster today, so maybe fair enough. But the good news, Alessandro, is with that 4th position, you've moved up to 11th in the driver's table. So you're 3 points away from Alex Laho now. So you'll be pleased to know that your namesake is in good company as well. But obviously, it was interesting. The start, I always said it in the broadcast, you absolutely nailed the getaway there. And there was no threat from behind. I saw Sergio was really, really struggling in the first stint. Was there a sort of plan, if Sergio was able to start on the front row and Matthew Williams hadn't split you, that he would have been able to sort of defend for you in that first stint? Or do you think that was always going to be tricky with the pace of the Super League field behind you?
It was always going to be tricky, but if he did start behind me, I think the main plan would have been to just carry him along, because if you sit in somebody's DRS for the first stint, you do save a lot of tires. So that's where I started struggling early on, and the others were able to catch up to me quite easily. So yeah, the plan was just, let's say, save as much tire as you can. But of course, when you're first, it's a bit hard to do that when you've got a field of 30 cars right behind you.
So then, very, very strong result today for you, Maggio, the one that you finally resolved. How do you feel about Barcelona and Catalonia, Circuit de Catalunya in 2 weeks' time? Because that's the sort of track where you can start on pole, and if you lead into the first corner, you've got a much better chance of winning. But of course, given the competition, there's no guarantees. You've got to do an absolutely stellar job like you've done today to pull that sort of result off. Do you think you can get another pole and sort of another good result, or do you reckon Barcelona is going to be a much trickier one than Jeddah for you?
I'd say let's just skip to Indianapolis, please. I really do not like the track, and our car is not gonna be suited well for this kind of bumpy surface because we're missing the underfloor upgrade. So that means we have to run a bit higher on the ride height, and that gives us a bit more stiffness. So every time we hit a bump, our car is just gonna settle and wear the tires more. And yeah, please let's just go to Indianapolis, I beg you.
Well, you know, you might be able to get a couple of points out of it. It might not be a totally wasted journey. But anyway, congrats. Is there anything else you wanted to add, of course? Because this is probably the team's best result of the season. You in 4th and Sergio, was it P7 or P8 in the end? I can't remember. 8th, it was 8th. Yeah, sorry. I was flattering him slightly there.
Well, hopefully it will be the best result of the team yet. So
the best is yet to come then.
I hope. Maybe keep an eye on Monza. You never know.
Well, there's another driver that tends to do quite well at Monza. He won today, so
I won that.
Yeah, there's a problem with that. But anyway, thank you very much for coming to talk to us, and congrats on your best result in Super League today, Maggio. I'm sure there'll be more magic antics to come.
Thank you very much.
Right, now shall we talk to the THR team, because Toby Davis has dragged both Tom Stevens and the race winner Jarl Tyne into the interview waiting room. So let's drag them in one by one then. So we are now joined by the assembled THR team that have taken their first 1-2 of the season after, it must be said, a slightly less than ideal last 2 races. This was an amazing way to fight back. So Jarl Tyne and Tom Stevens driving brilliantly, and of course Toby Davis, team principal, doing a fantastic job behind the scenes to keep things running smoothly on that front. So let's talk to our race winner first. Jarl, it was a bit of an interesting start to qualifying because we saw you crawling around with large bits of the car missing. But it just shows exactly why you should never give up, because not only did you qualify just about into the top 10, but you were then able to fight your way forward through the race. It wasn't the sort of race where you just sat back and waited for the people ahead of you to hit trouble. You really had to fight through and make that strategy work. So in the end, it was a quite comfortable victory for you.
I wouldn't say it's comfortable, but it was definitely a solid one, seeing as both of us was 1 and 2. But yeah, the qualifying was really an annoyance because in practice, obviously, I did my PB overall in practice, and I was also fastest. But that kind of set a different standard for me, and trying to achieve the same in qualifying kind of, I was pushing too hard, and I got really, really lucky that my car didn't, blow the engine or something like that. So I was forced to crawl back to the pits, and I was left with like 7 minutes left of qualifying to try to get a lap in. I was able to scrape a P6, which isn't too bad. I lost quite a lot on my lap, but yeah, P6 is okay. It was an okay starting spot for what we needed to do in the first stint, and which was to sit in DRS anyway. We didn't want to lead the pack, so we just want to sit in DRS, save, and then push at the end of the stint, which we did. I got myself to the lead right before the pit stops, and then yeah, our strength is definitely that middle stint. That's really what made our 1-2, because our pace on the mediums was really, really strong. And yeah, obviously soft at the end was an easy push to the end.
Yeah, what did you think about Adonis's strategy there? Because they left Robin Panzer out to try and back you and Tom to an extent into Matthew Williams, who was very quick today and obviously rounded out the podium. Were you at all worried about that, or did you think, oh, as soon as I've got within DRS and I've got a clear piece of track, Robin's not going to be a problem?
No, I don't think. Obviously, Rob will stay out, but he's not going to do anything, unsportsmanlike. He was very fair, and what he did was completely fine. I mean, I would have done the same. So his strategy was actually a big surprise. I didn't even consider a soft hard, so I was really surprised, and his pace was great on the hards actually. But yeah, the Adonis guys was really quick. Both of their strategy kind of worked.
So yeah, I was just doing some counting in the background there. I believe that's your 7th career win in Super League. So congratulations on that. Barcelona next up. Are you excited about that, or are you dreading it like Maggio just told us he was dreading it? So I imagine a lot of drivers are a bit fed up with Circuit de Catalunya.
Well, I suspect I'll be starting last in Barcelona, so I will be dreading it.
Well, there's an appeal, there's hope.
Yeah, so well,
Stewards
I
might take pity.
I hope the penalty will go away, so I might be in the mix. But if they don't consider it, then yeah, I'll for now consider that I'm starting last. So it'll be a bit of a throwaway, but I'm glad to get the P1 for this race.
Yeah, and a fantastic way to turn your season around as well after a very, very tricky start with 2 retirements, of course. There's every chance you could get back into the mix at the very front of this championship because it's very, very topsy-turvy at the moment for the front runners. But thank you very much, Duziel. Let's move on to Tom then. So, Tom, you had quite a lot of interesting battles in this race. I think it's fair to say. I think the one that stands out the most to me was in that final stint with Matthew Williams, where Williams was all over the back of you, and you had to keep him behind, not just to protect yourself and the 1-2, but to protect your teammate as well. So that was 2 laps in a row where Matthew just went that little bit too deep, trying to go around the outside into the first chicane, and you just absolutely had to hold your nerve. It was brilliant to watch. What was it like to drive?
Yeah, I mean, I was quite surprised. He kind of just crept up on me out of nowhere. I wasn't really expecting him to come up behind me, but in the end we went side by side and there was some nice battling. And fortunately, when we caught up to Robin, I managed to build a bit of a gap. But even after then, even if it wasn't on-track battling, we were managing the gap. He was slowly closing in on me at the end, and I was slightly suffering with a bit of damage I picked up from, I think, Frelick in the middle of the race. So that made the final stint a lot trickier than it needed to be. But in the end, yeah, I managed to hold him off. And yeah, I'm really happy that we managed to get our 1-2 today from, I think, P6 and 9 on the grid. So yeah, I'm just really happy with the rocket ship that we made. And it wouldn't have been possible without, well, of course, Jarl, Toby, everyone else back at THR, FTR. It's just been a mega effort going into this one. I'm really grateful. So yeah, really happy with that one.
Yeah, the good news, by the way, in terms of the team's championship is that THR have gone from 6th in the table back up to 3rd, and it looks like Super Venturi 86 points, Adonis Engineering 81 points, THR 80 points, and then TOP Esports 78. So it's pretty close, to put it mildly. And every single point, every race you can just get to the end of might well make the difference, even on a bad day. But today was a very, very, very good day for you, Tom. We said in commentary, and it was probably a stupid thing for me to say, that, oh, well, they might be considering swapping the drivers around at some point, because we did see that at this very race last season, if you remember, you and your teammate at the time, Adam Maguire, did swap positions a couple of times. Was there ever a discussion about that with you and Jarl, or did you think, well, whoever's in front just needs to try and build a gap, and whoever's behind just needs to do what they can to try and secure the 1-2?
I mean, Jarl always had the legs on me today in this one, so it was only fair for him to remain out front. He did all the hard work in the race pretty much, and he fought his way to the front. So, I mean, the closest thing we had to that was discussing maybe Jarl pulling back on the last lap or two, just to ensure that if Matthew got into my DRS, I would have been fine, or it would have been a lot easier to defend, because I didn't have any push to pass. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, no, there was no thoughts on that at all. And after what happened at Japan, I would have thought they would have wanted to keep us as far apart as possible. So.
Yeah, well, I think Jarl's just having post-traumatic stress flashbacks now. But anyway, which is not fair for the man who's just won the race. So you shouldn't have said that, Tom. But anyway, there's not much else for me to say, really. But congratulations on that, Tom. Are you looking forward to Barcelona? That's where you won, of course, last season and start to turn what was a tricky start to the season around. You've done it a race earlier this time around, I guess, if we're thinking about it in that sort of manner. So the game is very much back on for THR. You must be delighted with that.
Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to Barcelona. It's treated me very well the past 2 seasons, and hopefully I can continue a streak going on there. But I know it's going to be probably a more challenging race. But yeah, looking forward to it and hoping we can repeat what we did today.
Absolutely. So congrats on your second place of the season, Tom. I'm sure that win might well be just around the corner. But let's move on to the thoughts of team principal Toby Davis now. Toby, your reaction to after such a tough start to the season. We know THR had sort of not received criticism as such, but a lot of people who had bet money on THR doing well, I think, were quite upset and hoping they would turn things around. And to your credit, you absolutely did that today and paid everybody back with interest. So what are your thoughts on that? It must be emotional for you.
Yeah, especially after what happened at Suzuka. It was really, really good to be back to where we've been over the last couple of seasons. I think the effort that the guys have put in over the last couple of rounds to really turn the thing around from being a bit lost on the setup to where we found some really significant gains. And to be honest with you, a lot of that work has been done by the 2 THR guys, especially Jarl. So kudos to those guys. I'm actually on holiday at the moment, so I'm doing this on my phone. And I didn't do any engineering tonight. Luke Mitchell and Mike Quint were engineering at THR and FTR tonight, so I clearly am not needed. So well, yeah,
you were needed to correct my pronunciation of Fraser Tartan.
Oh,
so.
I didn't want you to play that out loud. Yeah, no, it's all good. Yeah, FTR is obviously a new team in branding, but it still continues the Nocturne legacy from last season, and we're with Moritz in the car for this round. He obviously was targeting that top 5 and potentially could have got that without the mistake. So I think Moritz is a bit gutted, but he's really stepped up, and Sven's still learning this car. I think Sven will come good eventually, but yeah, the whole group has been really good. We had Lunak and obviously Kings are part of our group as well in SL2 doing well. So it's been a real team effort for the last couple of weeks, and yeah, we're really, really positive about the result today, of course.
Yeah, 3 in a row team starters. It could still happen now. So you're making the predictions come true just a little bit in an unexpected way, of course, which is exactly what we love. We love. You may not love surprises, Toby, but we certainly do. And I think the 1-2 today was not a surprise, but the way it happened certainly was. So thank you very much for talking to us, all 3 of you, and for putting on a fantastic show, both behind the scenes and on track.
Thanks so much, and thank you for making a really enjoyable watching experience again tonight, Ed and Caitlin and Remco. It's been a really good broadcast to watch, so it's nice to watch it for once rather than be in the race. So thank you guys, really, really good.
Enjoy the rest of your holiday, Toby.
Thank you very much.
Right. So as we allow now THR a little bit of time to take all their trophies, Toby Davis with the team's manufacturer winning trophy, I guess, and then Tom Stevens, Yartan with the second and first place trophies respectively. We've still got 3 more drivers that want to talk to us. Let's see maybe if we can squeeze a couple of them in. I think first up has to be our 5th place finisher, Loic Moynier, so we can find out what happened at their first pit stop. Now, we're now joined, thank you very much for waiting, Loic, by our 5th place finisher for Spark Racing, of course, Loic Moynier. So, Loic, last time we spoke, obviously it was after that euphoric first victory. This time, it was looking promising early on, wasn't it? There was every chance of a podium, and then it was that first pit stop where I think, did you go a little bit long in the box? I'm not sure quite exactly what happened, but that really put you on the back foot for the rest of the race. And you did well, I think, to fight back up to 5th in that last stint. There's a sense of frustration because you were catching Robin and Alessandro in that final stint, but it was almost just a little too late, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, we came into this race knowing it would be our worst one yet, so I was prepared for anything, really. Wherever I finished is points to Jan, so I'll be satisfied with this. The car could have been there, just didn't get the most out of it in qualifying. I missed that final 10th, and in the race, yeah, as you mentioned, that fucked me up.
Oh, apologies, ladies and gents, for that language.
And
Don't worry,
yeah, I tried my best. I tried my best in the second and third stints, but I would have to use a lot of battery to get through the slower traffic, and sometimes would just take too long to make the moves. I just think it was a bad race on my side.
Oh, well, if 6th place is a bad race, I'm sure there's a lot of drivers in the field that would happily have taken a P6 today, or maybe in several other races as well. So, but I suppose, of course, given where you're in the championship, I can understand a disappointing day. So the good news is, like, you're still 2nd in the points, 15 now behind Jan Grankvist, but you are equal on points with Matthew Williams, who of course was 3rd today, and Simon Frelick, Tom Stevens, Yaltan, of course, are not too far in arrears on 48, 46, and 34 points, respectively. Then, so overall in the Drivers' Championship, you've got to say you're still in a strong position. Looking forward to Barcelona in 2 weeks' time. What are your thoughts on that? A lot of mixed opinions so far. I think only Tom Stevens seems keen on that track.
Yeah, well, first off, props to THR for coming back on top. So it's not like they were due. I would have been happily keeping those places for myself, but they did the job on their side, and it showed. So props to them, props to Fournier. It was great to see him up there. I was driving alongside him, chatting a lot with him last year. So it's still good to see another Frenchman doing well. Well, for championship, it's a blessing of Jan not to retire. Again, you gotta take bad luck of others, turn it in yours. Yeah, it's still good to be 2nd. Williams is strong. He's been really strong at the start of the year, so he definitely deserves to be there. And yeah, in Barcelona, I hope I can come back to the performance I had earlier in the championship, because yeah, as I said, it was just, I hope it's just a one-off, a day that just didn't happen.
It's certainly a very unique circuit, Jeddah, so I think everybody's got full faith that you're still in the hunt in this championship. Like, so commiserate. I did say P5 earlier. I think it was actually P6, wasn't it, behind Robin? So I may have miscounted how many people finished ahead of you, but a day of damage limitation, and I think you did about the best you could have. And certainly there are a few positives to take away from today. So hard luck, and I'm sure we'll see you in action again in Barcelona in 2 weeks' time. Thanks for talking to us, Luke.
Thank you, Ed.
Right, who have we got time for now? Shall we drag in Sergio Fletcher, who finished P8? Because after the disappointment of Suzuka, this was actually overall a stronger race for him. So I think we can maybe fit out Maggio in after, but it'll be a little bit tight. But let's try Sergio Fletcher first. So we're now joined by Valley Esports' very own Sergio Fletcher. Sorry to interrupt, Sergio. Congrats on finishing in P8. I know, obviously, after Suzuka, you were so frustrated near the closing stages of that race to crash out of P8, but you made up for it today. It was a very up and down day. You had a difficult start to the race in the first stint where the tires dropped off and you were struggling just to hold on with that lead pack, but you regrouped in the second and third stints and you were able to just about hold on in what was a very, very intense battle to P8. So you got to feel ultimately, Sergio, quite satisfied with that.
I mean, well, thank you first of all. I had the wrong front wing on the first stint.
Oh,
I was
no.
4 clicks down. I didn't change it from quality, so my car was a total boat. I couldn't steer, and I was destroying the tires. Well, that's why I dropped off like a stone. And then I fixed it on the pit stop, but that's why I had the pace. I think I could have finished either with Maggio or right ahead of him. I had his same pace. So yeah, I mean, good points, but really sour feeling. Could have been a lot better, I think.
Well, it's always the way, isn't it? There's always. You weren't the only person in this race to make a mistake. Lloyd Moynier showed us that with the going a bit long in the box in the first pit stop, I think. But very briefly, Sergio, are you looking forward to Barcelona? Because Valle, they're still 7th in the championship, but a lot closer to P6 and P5 now in a big fight with the likes of, I think it's Spark and Rota Formula just ahead of you then. So there's every chance top 5 could still be on.
Yeah, that's true. Morale was a bit low after Turkey, and we needed good points. Today could have been a bit better from my side, but yeah, we got both cars in the top 8, so that's great. Looking forward to Spain.
Yep, Valle back into exactly where they wanted to be with their first top 4 finish of the season from Maggio, and you backing him up superbly then. So obviously more points to come. We know we haven't seen the best of Sergio Fletcher, but we've certainly seen a lot of promise then. So obviously a little bit unlucky with the first stint, but we know there's going to be way more chances to finish on the podium this season. So thanks for talking to us, Sergio, and best of luck for Barcelona.
Thank you very much for having me.
Right. Jeffrey Fournier showed up very, very late into the interview room, but I think Alex Laho has waited the longest. So let's finally let him in and hear what he has to say. And I think that might be all we've got time for, I'm afraid.
And
sorry, Alex, to interrupt, but we are now joined by Rota Formula's very own Alex Laho, who had a very, very up and down day.
Hello.
Qualified in 20th position on a race he had backed himself to do incredibly well in, it must be said. And ultimately, you still actually did. We saw bits and pieces of it here and there. It was a fighting drive for you back through the field, wasn't it? You were the highest runner who started on the mediums, weren't you? And you led a very, very short period of the race, admittedly.
Oh, did I?
Yartan breeze, but I think you did. You were certainly running near the top 3 at one point. But
I got the podium at some point. Shouldn't have picked it.
and then... well, I think we saw exactly what happened to the people who didn't pit. Look at poor Jan Grankvist. Look at poor Moritz Kropp.
I just saw what happened to Jan. And look,
you had a great fight with Jan as well. Actually, we saw a bit of that on stream when you were fighting over 12th or 13th, wasn't it? And you tried to go around the outside at turn 27 and nearly crashed into him then.
Yeah, I almost ran out of push to pass, so I had to, try to defend, and then I lost it in the braking of turn 1. But yeah, thank you for reminding me that I qualified like P42. Thanks for the reminder. Now, 5 or 6 tries in quali, and I could not get a single lap in. I set the PB in practice, and in qualifying, there's nothing. Just nothing. I crashed as well. I lost the rear wing.
You weren't the only one.
Oh yeah.
Yartan crashed in qualified P6 and then won the race. So and he crawled it back to the pits as well with a missing rear wheel, I'm pretty sure, and no front or rear wing. So it was quite something to see.
It should have been me.
I could see you. Well, you did the crash part, right? You didn't do the qualified P6 part, right? Which I think was where it fell down slightly.
Not everything was checked. I didn't check all the...
but it has to be said, let's look at it from a team point of view. Rota Formula, Thomas Vack had a big crash with David Feiduck that took him out of the race. So it was all down to you.
Oh,
and
really?
despite qualifying badly in P20, you got 9 places up to P11 in the end. Andy beat both Super Venturis on track. So it has to be said, in terms of recovery drives, I praised a couple of other drivers before you, but you were certainly up there, Alex.
Yeah, it's unlucky, man. It was a satisfying drive. All in all, could have been much better if I qualified like even top 10. Would have been way better than just running laps around out of DRS because people are doing mistakes, so they drop the DRS to the guy in front, and then you need to push a bit more to catch up. So you lose tire wear and you need to keep the same pace over and over again. Yeah, not easy to climb up the field. I was expecting this to be a DRS race, DRS train, and it was in the end.
Well.
I mean, the battles were fine. The battles were cool, actually. I was fighting Yuka in the final laps. Like, the whole of Super Venturi, car knowledge, pace went into that fight. And
There we go.
I had no push to
And
pass to back it up.
But you did have the softer, fresher tyres though.
Oh, they dropped in the end because I needed to push a bit harder. But I boxed like with 12 laps to go, so I knew what I was doing.
But you needed a good dry, I think, especially after how Suzuka went on that hard tyre stint, which was a very tricky one for you. You've got to say, how do you feel going into Barcelona? Is that going to be a track that you relish going to, or do you think it's going to be another DRS train sort of track?
It is gonna absolutely be a DRS train track. It's gonna be saving tires until the end. Yeah, we are not going to talk about Suzuka.
Okay, well, let's not then. Let's pretend it didn't happen.
Let's pretend it did not happen. Japan does not exist anyway.
All right, okay.
Not a real country.
I think Loic feels offended that you're trying to erase his win from the history book.
Oh,
but nonetheless.
We keep the results, but the race did not happen, okay?
Okay.
We have a deal.
I think we might want to
Yeah,
wrap
that's-
this up. But,
Yeah, it's
but
good.
anyway.
I mean, the
Yeah.
race was quick. Like one.
It was, yeah.
11?
Yeah, you certainly did your best to end it early. A lot of drivers ended the race early by not finishing, but you were not one of those. So, well done for
actually
getting to the end of
extended
that
it.
one, Alex. And
Yeah.
where are you in that? So I know Road to
10th.
Formula are 6th in the chat. Yeah, you're still 10th. Yeah, I did say it earlier because Maggio is now within about 3 points of you. So yeah, best of luck in that battle. But
Yep.
and thanks for coming to talk to us. We wish you all the best of luck for Barcelona in 2 weeks' time. And more points for the Alex Laho train. So how many?
Yeah.
I'm trying to definitely. Well, that's not the most offensive thing that somebody said in the interview today. So I think that's 4 out of 5 races that you've scored in. So you got to take the positives when they come. And
5 races.
Oh, 4 races, yeah. Okay, 3 out of 4 races. Okay, that's not quite as impressive.
Oh yeah,
but,
we drove in
I'm
like cool.
Yeah, sorry, I was predicting that you'd finish in the points in Barcelona as well. I was giving you the points already. Yeah.
Let's go. Yeah, let's just sign off and go into spring break already. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. Mitra's trying to save everyone some time there. But anyway,
Yeah,
before
just
I
save
drag
some
this
time.
interview out any further, Alex, thank you very much for coming to talk to us, and best of luck to you and Road to Formula for the rest of the season.
Yep. Thank you, Ed. Thank you, guys, and see you soon. Maybe in VC or anything.
I'm sure
Bye-bye.
we will. Right then, so as Alex Laho vacates the commentary box from interviews, that means we've finished interviews. So as it's almost 10 o'clock, time to bring Caitlin Penny back in and sum up our thoughts at the end of an interesting race then. So a third different winner of the season, Caitlin. We thought Jan Grankvist was going to run away with it. He had a very difficult race in the end, crashing out with 2 laps to go. And it was Yartan, Tom Stevens, and THR that absolutely took advantage today.
Indeed. Thank you very much for doing the human interaction part of the stream, Ed. I'm just here
Yeah,
to
we all
talk
hate
about
that,
cars.
don't we?
But anyway, yeah, very interesting day of racing, both for the championship and, of course, for today's results. If you do want to see more GPVWC action, and of course, why would you not? We will be in Spain in 2 weeks' time. Unfortunately, we will not actually be in Spain. I will be somewhere else. But of course, we will virtually be in Spain at the Circuit of Barcelona, Catalunya. In the meantime, of course, we have Formula Sprint 2. That will be on the 29th of April. We will have Formula Sprint 1 on the 1st of May. We will have the Academy Series on the 5th of May. They are also in Spain, but at the Circuit Ricardo Tormo, a different circuit altogether. On the 6th of May, we will have the Super Lights race, and then on the 8th, we will have the Super League Grand Prix of Spain. So make sure that you don't miss that. And then, of course, we will have the rest of the calendar after that. I don't know what I'm trying to get at with that.
I think
but,
Indianapolis is the one after Spain. So yeah.
Yes, of course. But anyway, make sure you don't miss the next Grand Prix. The championship is getting tighter, and every single race here in GPWC is intensely unpredictable. So it's always going to be worth tuning into. Thank you all very much for being here today. Thank you to Ed for joining me in the box. Thank you to Remco for directing this broadcast, bringing you sights, sounds, and thank you to all of you for tuning in the YouTube chat and keeping us entertained. Oh, and of course, every driver that we interviewed in the interview room at the end. That's all for tonight. See you next time.